Welcome in. It's the Yahoo edition of the Deeper Dive Live Before Lock, all jammed into one, courtesy here of Yahoo on Awesemo. Don't worry, the extended Deeper Dive and Live Before Lock coming your way in about 30 minutes. Jordan is producing. Matt is in the house. Most importantly, myself, we're hanging all here with you. So hit that thumbs up button and make sure you're subscribed. But man, I got to be honest. The first thing I noticed as we came on, Matt, was how fast they yanked that Christmas music. It's like, all right, back to Monday, December 27th. I imagine Jordan's tree, if he even had one up, is down already. Like he's already on to the next holiday, whatever that is, where you'd set up decorations. But man, that was quick.
Yeah, it's a sad time of year, you know? I mean, listen, I'm not the type of guy who listens to holiday music very often, but it's always a little depressing once Christmas ends. It's like, all right, we got to wait a whole nother year.
Yeah, seriously. But that's the thing, though. That's why a lot of people extend it. That's why a lot of people have their tree up in the middle of January or end of January, right? That's why the lights are up on the house for 6 more months. We just pulled that sucker in Sunday. That was it. We're done. All right, we got a full slate of Yahoo games to look at. And on the 7, so far, nothing has been canceled as of yet. So we stand in pretty good shape. I think actually, in all seriousness, Matt, we stand in really good shape that nothing is going to be canceled tonight. And we pretty much have our games locked in on the slate, correct?
Yeah, I mean, once the NBA made the rule that if you have more than one player out in health and safety, you have to sign a replacement. I think the days of the postponements are pretty much over.
Which helps us out exponentially. We do know who is out, and there are a lot of big names that are out. And this is why you're here. This is why Matt's here to provide a little deeper insight into some guys that you may not have been paying attention to early on because DeJounte Murray was on a tear, or because Trae Young was on a tear, or Jason Tatum is taking 90% of the scoring share for Boston, what have you. Now we're going to try and go a little deeper. No Durant right there at the top. And that's the big picture storyline, I think, for tonight, right, Matt, is just trying to maneuver. Even if this were a totally healthy stars and scrubs slate, now you really have to maneuver through the big names that are hurt.
Yeah, there's James Harden at the top is going to be sort of like, that's the biggest decision you're going to have to make is, do I play James Harden or not? So the Durant news is obviously huge for that, but there's plenty of other stuff going on. As you mentioned, no Jason Tatum. Damian Lillard is questionable. Yep. We've got some questionable guys for the Rockets. So, and then the Hawks continue to get thinner. DeLone Wright, who is someone who we've been rostering quite a bit, talking about quite a bit with Trae Young out. Now he is sidelined. So, the Hawks, I believe, have 11 players in protocols at the moment. So there's going to be some, we're looking at backups to the backups at this point.
Now, there is a possibility if he passes with a negative test that Trae Young could play tonight, right?
Yeah, I mean, the way this
we
works
haven't got the results yet.
You don't really know, right?
Yeah.
The players are all listed as out on the injury report. But once they test negative, they can kind of just appear out of nowhere. So it's very frustrating for writers who are relying on those injury reports because you don't really know. A guy can be ruled out. You base your whole article on this guy being out. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, he's in. So take the outs with a grain of salt, but yeah, know that for the most part, these players have been sidelined for approximately 10 days. So it's going to take a good week and a half to 2 weeks for a player to emerge from the depths of health and safety.
Sounds like you may have been in that position once or twice as a writer.
Yeah, just a few. Yeah.
All right. Let's jump into the point guard spot. Again, hit that thumbs up button, please. If you're hanging with us, any questions about the Yahoo specific slate, by all means, that's why Matt is here as well. We have these links for you below. Click on it. You get $10 free to play with. And of course, once you sign up free at Yahoo, we're going to give you 1 month free of Awesemo Plus Platinum. So Harden right there at the top, the $50 spend up for sure. You do have LaMelo kind of lurking as far as a $5 save. I don't know how much money with 7 games and so many big names out you're looking to save on the slate, Matt, but let's at least start with Harden, and then we can work our way as far as Ball and even maybe Morant as far as a pivot where you're saving some money, but still getting some expectation in return.
Yeah. So Harden for sure has the highest fantasy ceiling on the slate. He's projected for the most points. He's been extremely good in games without Kevin Durant this season, increased his usage rate by over 10% in those contests, averaging right around 60 fantasy points per game. So for sure, play James Harden. The issue is that his ownership, he's checking in right now. We have 43% projected ownership for him. I think there are a lot of point guards on this slate who are in really good spots. Namely, LaMelo is in a great spot. This matchup against the Rockets, it's two of the fastest paced teams in the league, two teams that play no defense. The total on this game is near 240 points at this point. So this figures to be a game with a lot of scoring. And excuse me, the Hornets are still without Miles Bridges. They're still without Cody Martin. LaMelo's averaging over 1.5 fantasy points per minute with both guys off the court. So I think Ball is a really strong pivot off of Harden. You could potentially use both if you want to go stars and scrubs. But, I think my plan at the moment is to be underweight on Harden and overweight on some of the other plays.
What about Morant in the sense of, he's a little cheaper than Ball. You are saving the 10 on Harden. What's working against you clearly is that he's not back to being Ja Morant. And if you're waiting for that one game to click and say, bam, he's back, probably not going to be against Phoenix. So you've got a lot of things working against you, but how many times has this paid off for people countering the field and logic? It's a risk. I get it's a risk.
Yeah, it's a risk, and I think there are better places to exploit it. There are other pivots I like more, and I get you. Morant is going to check in. Right now, we haven't projected for 7% ownership.
Right.
So getting a guy like Ja at single-digit ownership, it's always a viable thing. But the fact that his minutes have been monitored since he's returned to the lineup, he's been around 30 in his first 3 games, and you add in that matchup against Phoenix, I think we can do better from a pivot perspective. We have Ja as, basically one of the worst values on the slate per dollar wise in our projections. So I think I'd rather go with some of these other players that I'm going to talk about if you want to pivot off of Harden.
Yeah, let's do that. I mean, Bledsoe's coming up as a cheap pivot, clearly at the position. We still have that mid-range spend for Jalen Brunson. So either of those guys, if not, then who else?
Yeah, both of those guys for sure, I think are excellent options. Bledsoe in particular, the guy did everything for the Clippers in their last game. 18 points, 10 assists, 5 steals, 2 blocks. Didn't even shoot the ball particularly well. Like he was sub 50% from the field, finished with over 53 fantasy points. So as long as Paul George and Reggie Jackson are sidelined, he is going to have to be one of their top options. They could potentially get Marcus Morris back today, which would cut into his workload a little bit, but I don't think it's enough that it moves him down, to being anything other than a great play. Same goes for Brunson. Good matchup versus the Blazers. He's been doing everything for them. So I like both of those guys quite a bit. Also, like the Portland situation is definitely something to monitor. Lillard has been playing some good basketball recently, much better than before he got hurt. But he's questionable. If he's out, then we can go back to like an Anthony Simons who's priced at the minimum. So you have a lot of different directions you can go that you can go on in the slate.
I know you were talking about Charlotte earlier, just chat mentioning Cody Martin is in. So something to factor.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Now.
He was out on the injury report.
Yep.
He was out.
So there we have it. Yep. Perfect example of what you just laid out when I was asking earlier about Trae Young. That's insane, right? So you have to keep an eye on everything as this thing is beyond fluid. It's even more than that. So beyond our depth look here at the point guard spot, we'll move to the 2. Levine's up there, $39. This has been kind of the theme, even I should say, especially with Beal being out on those Washington games. We're not getting anybody that you're spending up for, right? Spider's out, CJ's still out. So Devin Booker at $31, Jaylen Brown at $30. These guys become exponentially, I would think, more valuable because their cost isn't reflecting who's out above them.
Yeah, I mean, Jaylen Brown at $30 with no Jason Tatum stands out as just a really strong play. You could argue that he was in play at $30 even if Tatum was active. So he should be asked to do a lot of scoring tonight. He's increased his usage rate to 36.1% with Tatum off the court this season. He's averaging 1.32 fantasy points per minute. So really, really good stuff for Brown when you're playing without Tatum. I think that's kind of a no-brainer at the position. Again, though, big ownership projection, 40.2%. And I do think that one of the better value plays on the slate also happens to play shooting guard. So you can play both together, but if you're only playing one, then it's kind of a choose your own fortune type of thing.
Yeah, choose your own adventure. Was that the name of the book back in the day?
Yeah, and you would always die, and then you would go back, and anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it was so easy to cheat unless you had like the librarian monitoring and standing over you. You'd just be like, "Oh, what happens? Let me look and see. Does it say you're dead? You're dead. All right, no, I'm going to go somewhere else.
Going back."
Exactly. All right, so Jaylen Brown at $30, Bogdanovich chips in here at $14, and a quarter of the field is rushing to him. Mentioned Derek White earlier, just looking at the slate itself at $25. So clearly there's range where you can either save some money or just pivot away from ownership as a whole on Yahoo.
Yeah, and Derek White is somebody that I'm okay with fading tonight against the Jazz, right? Like, it's just a super tough matchup for them. Jazz continue to play like just really, really strong basketball. So they're favored right now. They're 7-point road favorites. So Vegas isn't necessarily anticipating a blowout, but I think there's more risk with White than some of the field might think. If I'm playing somebody other than Brown, it's going to be Skylar Mays. He's down there at $11. He's 12% projected own right now. We have him as the best pure value on the slate. Have him projected for right around 32.5 fantasy points at $11. It's tough to beat that kind of production. Again, no DeLone Wright tonight, so Mays is going to have to do quite a bit. I would rather have him than Bogdanovich. We have Mays projected for more than Bogdanovich, so Alex agrees with me. I think that's the direction you want to go if you're playing the Atlanta backcourt.
What about Beasley? And, maybe it's taking advantage of some injury situation with Minnesota. Maybe it's just the matchup as, even Smart's a game time decision, right? Has he been upgraded? It's still questionable. Okay. Is there any pathway to Malik Beasley at the 2, especially as a pivot from the high ownership with Jaylen Brown? And if people are looking to save some money at this position, $18 comes in. We do expect an increase. He and Patty Mills would be the two guys. I know that, Harden's in, but those two guys I'm interested to get your thoughts on because you're still below $20, and we've seen Mills explode with the increased usage rate. And now with Beasley, and especially with D'Angelo Russell out, that could open something up for Malik.
No, I agree. They're two strong plays at their price tag. I would give the edge to Patty just because he's projected to come in at 6% ownership on this slate. And we also have a little bit of a larger sample size of him just doing really good things, right? 37.8, 41.7, 49.9 fantasy points in 3 of his past 4 games. So I really like the upside that he gives you at that price tag when you factor in ownership.
Yeah, for what it's worth, Odd Shopper Alex, we have him projected just under 20 points. So if you're looking at Patty Mills as kind of a sneaky play to bet on 18.5, you can get pretty much at even money. And we have him projected for 20 points just under there. So it's not slowing down, at least with our own projections. If anybody out there to rostering him on a DFS lineup to playing the over on Patty Mills points, you're going to be backed by a lot of what we have here on site. All right, so I know you were pretty high on maybe 1 or 2 pathways to the 2-guard spot. Let's move to the 3, unless there's anybody else that you wanted to mention.
No, I think that's a good overview.
So on that theme of Beasley being in, mentioned Anthony Edwards, D'Angelo Russell, a bunch of guys out now for Minnesota. We also have Tatum out here. Dylan Brooks is out. Bunch of guys that normally find themselves up top. So by default, getting to Oubre at $27 is now your pay up option at the 3. But from Charlotte, we've talked about Hayward kind of sneaking in. I know Lillard waiting on Lillard's status. Maybe that does something for Powell. But where are you looking at now where you pretty much have no choice but to kind of have a mid-range pay up at best here on the 3?
Yeah, I think one guy who I'm going to be higher than the field on, near the top of the pricing spectrum, and he's not expensive by any stretch, but Terrence Mann at 19 for the Clippers, right? We talked about Bledsoe. Mann is sort of the other guy that I think sees the biggest bump. He again would have to be downgraded slightly if Morris comes back to the lineup tonight, but at least 36 minutes now in 3 of his past 4 games. He's given us roughly 30 fantasy points and over that time frame. So I feel pretty good about him at $19, especially considering, he's projected for 5.2% ownership. But again, I think this is a spot where most people are going to spend down.
What happens to Powell if Lillard is out tonight? Now you have the entire backcourt out. We only have 25% ownership projected right now for Powell, but I'm sure that's factoring in people getting to Lillard, since Lillard is at 3% higher than Powell. But if Lillard's out for whatever, personal reasons, now Powell has to be a slam, right?
Yeah, you would definitely want to have plenty of Norm in that situation. He hasn't had the best year with the Blazers. He started to turn things around recently, but he was really good for the Raptors last season, kind of operating in that primary scorer role. So he has shown the ability to do it with Portland too, when the team has been a bit shorthanded. 31.4% usage rate with Lillard and McCollum off the court. The fantasy production hasn't necessarily been there. He's at only 0.75 fantasy points per minute in that situation, which is really not good, but you would expect that number to tick up, right? He's, I would imagine, just shooting the ball very poorly in that situation. Yeah, 38.5% effective field goal percentage. So if he starts making some more shots, he will undoubtedly improve that fantasy point production.
I know it wasn't the best performance by any means, really back to back with the Sixers and then your Knicks. So maybe it's me and you kind of having the effect on it, but it's hard to ignore that Reddish is still $13 with all of the people out for Atlanta.
Yeah, he's somebody that I've been underweight on because I've been playing, more of the DeLone Wright side of that backcourt. But now I think you kind of have to go to Reddish tonight. $13 is just way too cheap for the amount of minutes that this guy has been playing. 34 on Christmas, 42 a few nights ago. So again, he's a jump shooter. He's a scorer. So his performance is going to be a bit volatile. He has downside, he has upside. But I think when you factor in all the absences, Reddish is going to have no choice but to sort of try to put the team on his back tonight. So I will have plenty of him.
All right, let's move to the 4. And a reminder here, Lofty and Adam coming your way in about 10 minutes with the expanded deeper dive. We have live before lock. Following that, click those links below if you haven't already here with Yahoo, as we do everything. The deeper dive, the live before lock, all in one for Yahoo, where we're giving out that $10 free. All we ask in return, you hit the thumbs up button. And then if you're new to Yahoo, sign up and you're going to get 1 month of Awesemo Plus Platinum absolutely free. Now, I have to address, because Dave mentioned it, Nova Scotia mentioned it as well. It's not, the heat is not out. I don't know. I'm very comfortable today. I'm dressed warm. I'm very comfortable. I don't have any hair. So that's how you have to keep hair, right? Heat on your head is this way. So I don't know. I'm very comfortable. I don't want people thinking like, does Awesemo not pay you that you can't keep the heat on? No. We're good here. We're good. You ready to fit the 4?
I'm a little chilly. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little chilly. So
I love it. All right, keep it moving. We're running out of time. That's my fault for derailing. I'm sorry, Matt.
It's okay.
All
We'll
right.
press on to power forward.
No Durant, so life is a little easier here. We do have the return of Kristaps Porzingis, as he had a pretty big line as expected against Utah. So I don't know if you still want to trust him. Probably should have a pretty decent matchup against Portland here at $37. DeRozan, though, is also someone to look at, especially going up against such a marred team in Atlanta. No John Collins. We know that Atlanta's dealing with some problems. So if you were to start at the top, technically it's a matter of DeRozan versus Porzingis.
Yes, and I have a pretty clear edge for Porzingis in that matchup. Again, just Dallas so shorthanded right now. No Tim Hardaway, no Luka Doncic. It's basically just Kristaps and Jalen Brunson. So the fact that they threw him sort of right back into the fire, he played 34 minutes against the Jazz. He posted a 32% usage rate. Like that's not something that they do very often with Kristaps. They take it easy on him. So that lets you know just kind of what position they're in. I think that I would put Porzingis into the, like good pay up options for this slate.
Yeah, and again, the pay up at $37 isn't even technically like you're breaking the bank by all means. So let's look elsewhere then, as far as moving away from any top pay options, especially because now we're in that mid-20s and there really aren't many. Jackson is in there, Jayshawn Tate's in there as well. I don't know how much you're racing to get to Al Horford without a Jason Tatum out there on the floor and Horford healthy out there. $26. It's not like you're throwing money down the drain, but you could kind of be like incrementally sprinkling money down the drain.
I don't hate Al tonight. I think again, we don't know what his workload is going to be like.
Yeah.
After missing the last 10 days essentially. So I would rather go with Keldon Johnson at $20.
Nice.
He only played that last Spurs game was weird because they beat the Pistons by like 35. So they just didn't play any of their guys. But Keldon had 27 points in 23 and a half minutes, essentially. So I think he's going to be asked to do more now that we have Derek White sidelined. Or I'm sorry, DeJounte Murray sidelined. And I like Johnson a little bit more than White because, one, the ownership isn't nearly as important. And two, I don't feel like I'm giving up a spot. Like at shooting guard, if I play Derek White, I can't play Skylar Mays or I can't play Jaylen Brown. I don't really feel like I'm sacrificing a ton at power forward with the exception of Porzingis, right? Like it's a weaker position. So if I'm going to play a Spur in this matchup against the Jazz, I would much rather it be Keldon Johnson.
Eddie Love, we talked about Powell, and I imagine especially if Dame is out, Larry Nance, $9 cheaper than Powell. Different spot, granted, but all of a sudden, Larry Nance now jumps out, right?
Yeah,
maybe already he jumps out.
Yeah, Nance is not somebody I would expect to be a huge beneficiary if Lillard is out, because he's not the kind of guy that you're going to ask to score. He's the guy that you ask to do everything else. So Nance is a solid play at 14, but I would actually prefer him if Lillard was in.
Got it. That's where we're looking at. Now, we'll hit the center, wind down here on the center, but I just wanted to make sure we didn't miss anybody at the bottom end of that. Kyle Anderson getting a little love at $16. Anybody else you want to sprinkle in there or just end with the center?
The McDaniels brothers for sure deserve attention. Jaden for the Timberwolves, Jalen for the Hornets. Both guys going to have to play a bunch given their team's absences. And yeah, Kyle Anderson. I think that's an interesting call for Memphis. I wish they would play this guy more minutes because he's always effective when he's on the court. But I still think he's got some upside at his current price tag.
At the center spot here, and Clint Capella doesn't have anybody around him that could get in his way. I just don't know how much you would trust him individually. Christian Wood, we know, is live, especially at $32. You do have Cat out on the slate. There's always going to be the defensive appeal for Gobert. Matchup maybe on anything offensively. And then Vooch is there again on the flip side of it. Like Capella doesn't have any help as well. So you could look at it one way or the other with Capella. Either nobody's going to get in his way or nobody's going to be there to help him.
Yeah, so it's a double-edged sword, right? Capella will get more minutes tonight with the absences that they have, but similarly to how I mentioned with Larry Nance Jr., like Capella is not a guy that you're going to throw the ball down to in the post and say, okay, go to work, big man, isolation. Like he's a screen and roll, rebound, alley-oop, block shot type of guy. And it behooves him to have better teammates on the floor with him. So I think Capella, the price tag is fair, but I'm not in love with him as a play tonight. I would rather play Rudy if I was going to spend up for a big man, just because Gobert is a better version of Clint Capella with better teammates.
Well, as far as, anybody else that you would look lower as an option, we know that LaMarcus Aldridge is out, no Durant. I mean, Nick Claxton also going up against Zubats, right? I mean, this is a great matchup for Nick Claxton. This may be one of those rare opportunities where you have circumstance of who's out around Nick Claxton combined with who he's going up against, which makes him as close to a must play as you can at $17.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's a must play. I think he's fine. We have plenty of centers who are grading out as superior values, specifically Nathan Knight for the
in that range.
Yeah, for the Timberwolves. He's priced at $10. He's the absolute minimum. He's going to see plenty of minutes for the Timberwolves. They don't have Cat. They don't have Jared Vanderbilt. They don't have Naz Reid. So they're going to have to play Knight at least a solid handful. He's an over a fantasy point per minute type of dude. Pretty hard to pass that up at $10.
All right. We appreciate everybody hanging. Hit that thumbs up button, please, if you haven't already, and get ready. Lofty and Adam coming your way for the extended deeper dive. And then it's Josh and Greg tonight following them live before lock. So you are fully taken care of. All we ask in return is bang that thumbs up button for us. And if you're not subscribed, nearly a K in here, you all should be subscribers here. Thanks to Jordan. Matt, we'll see you. We'll do it again on Thursday. Take another look at the Yahoo slate. Have a great night, brother. Thanks to everybody else out there. Don't go anywhere. Yeah, see? We're gone faster than that Christmas tree.
Oh, they're about to all be active stuff.
After the new CDC guidelines were adjusted.
I don't know if it was CDC, but the NBA changed their policy.
Yeah, they're saying it was the CDC. Go ahead, George. They're saying, I just saw them tweet out that the CDC is just, had put out new recommendations.
Okay.
Should be the Lafayette and Share recommendations. Yeah.
Right? Stop fucking testing.
What's going on? Everybody, welcome to the Awesemo.com NBA Deeper Dive presented by Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. And, well, this is going to be yet another wild slate. Look, as long as you're resigned to the fact that this is April basketball in December and heading into early January, but maybe you'll start to settle a little bit here, then everything's going to be okay. So we'll dive into it. 7 games to touch on with for the next hour. Then we'll turn it over to Live Before Lock. They'll take you off to the tip, and you'll obviously want to stick around for that. I'm Dave Lockren at Lafayette_D on Twitter, LOUGHY_D, joined by Adam Scher at Ship My Money DFS. What's good, bro?
Waiting to see how many guys are about to come back. We're used to doing the early show, doing the strategy show. Greg and I do the injury report, and then like half the guys we talked about get ruled out. Now it might be the opposite, where half the guys we talked about are no longer plays because everybody gets ruled back in.
Can they get ruled back in tonight?
Yeah, Cody Martin's already back.
So, okay, this is what I was talking. Sham Charania and Ian Rappaport from NFL, because NFL's been pretty wild too. Not this bad, but it's been pretty crazy doing those strategy shows and then a Live Before Lock where the strategy show is just moot an hour later. But he said new development from CDC, isolation period for people who test positive for COVID-19 is being lowered from 10 days to 5 days.
Yeah, the NBA policy I think I saw was 6 days, and that it goes into effect immediately. So we could be getting a wave of guys coming back during the show, I guess.
I'm assuming there's some connection there between the CDC guidelines and that, but we'll see. All I know is at this rate, all right. So, but Cody Martin, wasn't he already, correct me if I'm wrong, but, oh no, he was out. He wasn't questionable. So I'm trying to think, like there were a bunch of guys. Look, let's kick it off like this. And by the way, happy to have you guys with us. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. We're going to do our best to shoulder the load here today and get you guys up to date, covered on everything. And as news breaks, we'll be sure to hit it, assuming guys do get ruled in, oddly ruled back in or ruled out. But yeah, hit that. It only takes a second. If you're on the iPhone or you're on your Android and you have to click out of chat, hit that real quick, kind of pop back in the chat and say hello. And of course, hit that subscribe button as well. Almost at 70,000 subscribers. Our buddy Awesemo, Alex Baker, was pretty happy to get to that 69,420 yesterday during the deeper dive. Pretty exciting stuff. We had a big celebration. We're at 69,500 now. So yeah, thumbs up. Help us combat the YouTube overlords. Got to feed the algorithm. If you like the free content, help us out. It's the one small thing you can do heading into the new year. And if you want to join, hit that join down below. Get the emojis, the custom badges, the shout outs, the free super chats. And of course, we'll always prioritize your questions and comments and stuff like that. Okay, let's go. So what was I even talking? Oh, okay. So Adam, right now, there are a lot of players that have just entered the COVID protocol. And some of these guys, pretty significant names. Like you're not getting Towns back today, right? You're not getting most of Minnesota back today, and a bunch of others that just went on the COVID list yesterday or the day before.
Right. I would think that it's the guys that have been out for a little bit anyway. For example, I don't know for sure, but the immediate one that popped into my head that could just screw everything up is what happens if Kevin Durant comes back at like 9:00 p.m. or something. But you also have like Trae Young, for example. There's already been rumors floating that he could be back today. He apparently has one negative test, needs a second one. I don't know if this will impact that at all. But yeah, anybody that just went out, I think you're safe to assume just isn't coming back. It's the guys that have been out for a while that you could, I think, suddenly see just start being ruled in.
So we'll go off of what we know right now, and that is what we have in front of our faces. If things change, we'll get to it. Let's dive into it, though. Kick it off with Charlotte hosting the Houston Rockets here. Adam, Houston 7.5-point dogs. Charlotte 235 total in this game. So absolutely monster total between two teams that just have essentially no interest in playing defense whatsoever. If you're looking at the Houston side where we can start, there are a couple questionable guys, Kevin Porter, Jalen Green, both of whom, Kevin Porter's been out for a while now. Garrison Matthews is out. Does that affect this lineup to you significantly today? Is there any good value that we can target with Houston?
So we're still waiting on the Jalen Green news and Kevin Porter Jr. news. If they are in, then I don't think there's a really big impact from Garrison Matthews being out, because essentially you're getting Kevin Porter Jr. back and you're probably going to have similar rotations. If one or both of those guys are out, then you have some minutes available for guys like Armani Brooks and Josh Christopher. But assuming that Porter and Green are able to play, I don't think Matthews has too big of an impact here in DFS terms.
Somebody said that, somebody made a good point too, that Kevin Durant wouldn't even be in LA.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I guess really you have to be worried about home teams. Yeah.
And even so, though, like, are they at the facility? Have they? I don't know. This is kind of unprecedented, right?
Yeah, I think that is a very good point, because I saw it too, and I was going to say something about it. Like if you're in COVID protocols, I assume you're not flying with the team. So pretty safe to say if it's a road game, they're not going to be there. But like if I would assume that, like, for example, Trae Young is just kind of hanging out like in the parking garage or something, just like waiting for permission to come into the building.
I guess it's possible, just waiting there with a COVID test.
Yeah, just standing outside taking tests and dribbling the basketball, just like waiting.
Exactly. What about Christian Wood? He's the one guy on Houston right now getting a little bit of ownership. Obviously, the best per minute guy on this team. Quality rebounder, averaging a 17-11 double-double on the season. He's seen his price drop pretty significantly lately, all the way down to 8,200 on DraftKings against this Charlotte team that is notorious for giving up points. I mean, let's not overlook the fact that Houston is a 7.5 point dog, but this game has a 235 total.
Yeah, it's a really appealing game. Two very fast-paced teams, two teams that don't play defense. Houston, I don't think gives you a whole lot outside of tournament plays that aren't really priorities, but that do have a ceiling. Guys like Christian Wood, like you said, his salary's come down a bit on DraftKings. Still only center eligible though, which makes it tough. A little bit easier to get to on FanDuel. Even guys like Jalen Green, if he plays, Eric Gordon, if he plays, they certainly have ceilings in tournaments, but it's just really difficult to get to these guys in large numbers because you have so much value on other teams, whereas Houston is more or less at full strength.
Yeah, no question. And let me just ask you one more thing on the Rockets, since both of these teams are bottom four or top four in pace, bottom three in defensive rating. I mean, it really is just on paper, if you're not looking at names, as good a matchup as you can get in terms of a lot of points being scored, a lot of possessions, a lot of peripherals. If you were targeting tournament options outside of Christian Wood for Houston, who would they be if you're just trying to be different on a slate in a large field tournament?
I think Jalen Green and Eric Gordon are the two that I would get to first. Just guys that we know are going to take shots. They may or may not fall, but they're pretty inexpensive. Charlotte's a team where, when you get these streaky shooters that are inconsistent, a lot of times they happen to have better games against a team as bad defensively as Charlotte is. So Gordon and Green after Wood would be where I look first.
All right, flip it to the Charlotte side then. Again, Houston, it's not just Charlotte that's bad defensively. Houston's 28th in defensive rating, averaging well over 100 possessions per 48. They are fourth in pace. When it comes to Charlotte here, I want to start let's start with LaMelo Ball. His price is, it's never going to be particularly cheap. He's $9,500 on DraftKings, $9,400 on FanDuel, and over at our sponsor Yahoo, he's $45, which is the second highest price. Well, highest price active player on this slate. What do we do with LaMelo up top of the player pool?
I think he looks great here. You've seen playing time kind of ramping up recently. It's been tough because you had a massive blowout a couple games ago, and then the game against Denver, Ball only played 25 minutes, but that's a game where they were losing badly. The second unit came in, played really well, and the starters outside of Terry Rozier never came back. But if this game's competitive, it's likely that you see 34-plus minutes from LaMelo. It's a fantastic spot. 9,500 is a very reasonable price tag. He looks like one of the better pay-up options because there's not that many on this slate. You have James Harden at the top, but you're missing all of those other normal, top tier pieces. And so then you kind of just get the tier with like Damian Lillard, LaMelo Ball. It makes Ball look very good on a slate with a lot of value.
All right. So outside of Lonzo Ball, who I agree with, it's hard not to like him. Kelly Oubre, Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier, McDaniels. Where do these guys fall into the list of priorities today?
So I'm interested to see what the starting lineup looks like now, but my assumption is that you're going to get Ball, Rozier, Hayward, McDaniels, Plumlee. If that's the case, I am definitely interested in Plumlee and McDaniels' value. You have my assumption is that Cody Martin coming back is likely to take minutes away more so from the Nick Richards type guys that maybe would have gotten backup run. But I think that you're still going to get 30 plus minutes from McDaniels at 3,700. I think that it's likely you still get around 26 to 28 minutes from Plumlee with PJ Washington out. If that's the case, they both look like good values. And then any of Oubre, Rozier, Hayward are pretty solid options as well.
You think we can get that many minutes from Plumlee?
I don't really see why not. I mean, you don't have PJ Washington. I don't think that they're really in any hurry to play Nick Richards. The only way I guess that Plumlee sticks to playing like 20 minutes is if they do give Richard, let's say 14 or 16, and then you play like McDaniels and play a bunch of small lineups, which they could, but I don't really see why that would be a preferred option over going to Plumlee.
I think it's also worth considering too, that if you're going to take your chances on a guy that might not get the minutes and only plays 20, this is the matchup to do it in. And this is also the position to do it at as well.
Yeah, exactly. And it's still difficult to get to Plumlee even in 26 to 28 minutes on this slate because he looks like a very good value. But the problem is that, we have Nathan Knight in the Minnesota game that we're going to have to talk about with only center eligibility. And then you have some other good center options as well. So I think Plumlee looks like a good value. I think that it's a spot where like I certainly could be wrong and he plays less than I'm expecting. But my expectation is that you're getting 26 to 28. Anything
else for Charlotte?
No, just a bunch of good plays. I think the priorities are Ball, Plumlee, and McDaniels, assuming that McDaniels is starting. But Oubre, Rozier, Hayward, certainly all high upside options as well.
Okay. And Cody Martin, is he confirmed in? He is. Yeah. Okay. He's available for today. Just wanted to make sure it was confirmed. Let's talk about Chicago and Atlanta then. Keep this one moving. Chicago, 4.5-point favorites, 211.5 total at the Hawks. Maybe this is one of those situations for Atlanta where players return. Adam, there's a laundry list of players that were ruled out prior to this game, so we can touch on all that. But let's get into Charlotte first. You've got no Lonzo. You've got no Derrick Jones Jr. Those are the two guys sidelined here. We're going to talk about a lot of players being out in most of these games. But as it stands right now, still nobody's pulling a ton of ownership here. If you look at our ownership projections and over at Awesemo today, ownership rankings are free today at awesemo.com. Totally free for NBA. Same with our NFL showdown projections. If you want to get into that, we'll have a live before lock taking you up till kickoff from 7:15 to 8:15. But the only one really getting any ownership is Kobe White around 9%.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. He's the only guy that's like really, I think, mispriced here. But the issue that I have with White, I think he looks like a good value. He's likely to play 33 or 34 minutes. The issue is that he's filling in for Lonzo Ball as opposed to, let's say, Zach LaVine. Ball's not a high usage guy. And for the season, Kobe White only has about a 20% usage rate. This is a different Chicago team than we had last year where you saw Kobe White kind of just be able to come out and gun and take a bunch of shots because there weren't other high usage guys he's playing with. Now when you're playing with DeRozan and LaVine and Vooch, it's hard for him to have that role. And then you also have guys like LaVine and DeRozan that pick up plenty of assists as well. Without Ball on the floor this year, all three of LaVine, Vooch, and DeRozan have assist percentages north of 20%. So Kobe White still looks like a good value because he's likely to play a lot of minutes and because he's cheap. But I do think that you kind of should keep your expectations in check from a production standpoint, just because he's not going to be able to, or it's not likely that he's going to be able to be the same sort of, high usage guy that we saw last year.
No, I think that's a great point. This is not the same Bulls team that had Zach LaVine, who he's a fine passer, right? But that's not where he excels. And then you had like Thomas Satoransky is the only other ball handler not named Kobe White. So yeah, that's an issue. Now I believe, how much did Kobe White miss last year? Didn't he miss a ton of the season?
I don't remember.
I
know he missed a lot of this year.
What's up?
I know he missed a lot of this year.
Yeah, I might get him mixed up. I don't know. He played, he played 6. No, then he didn't miss much last year. He missed a lot this year. But you're right. It is a totally different team. You bring Vooch in. for a full season. Obviously, you bring in DeMar DeRozan, and now Kobe White. Like, I still think he'll have some ball handling responsibilities, but if you're looking at a game like this, first of all, how many minutes are you getting? Around 32?
30. I have him at 34, but yeah, I think 32 to 34 is the right range.
Yeah, is reasonable, right? And last game, 33 minutes, 1 assist. His potential assists are probably going to be in the single digits, even with Lonzo Ball out.
Right. It's the problem is, like, when you look at Lonzo's rates this year, he's got like a 19% usage rate. He's got about a 22% assist percentage. Even like just trying to replace that with Kobe White, you're probably going to see a lot of those assists go to guys like Levine and DeRozan. It's more likely that White's just going to play a relatively minor role despite playing a lot of minutes.
Yeah, you would certainly think so. I don't know. Where would you put him in terms of value on a slate that already has a good amount of it? I guess that would be the more important question.
Middle of the road. I think he projects for around 25 DraftKings points. He's probably not going to get tons of ownership because I think that there are just a lot of better value plays. So it kind of just puts him as like a tournament play, but not really sure that I would need him in cash in.
All right, just throwing this out there. In that last game, never mind. I lost it. I was going to give you the touches from that last game. I was kind of curious to see where it was at. I would imagine it was a lot lower than you'd think. Anybody else from Chicago?
Not that looks like a priority. Any of Levine, Vooch, DeRozan are high upside plays. They do get a bump in assist percentage without Ball out there, but more or less correctly priced here. And there's clearly a lot of very, very good plays on this slate that are mispriced.
Okay. On the other side of this one, I guess we can dive into this a little bit. There's just an insane amount to talk about. Oh, and Kobe by 56 touches. He was still, behind Vooch, Levine, DeRozan, as you would have expected. So that's pretty much par for the course. Atlanta missing a lot of players. I'll just read all of these off. Now, some of them, Adam, have been out. They're not all from COVID, but how many players are going to be active today? Young could play. He's questionable. This is a home game. And you guys brought up a salient point earlier that a lot of these guys on the road probably are not going to be with the team anyway. But you're without Collins, Wright, Herter, Gallinari, Hunter, Jalen Johnson, Luau Cabarro, Onyeka Nkongwu, Lou Williams, Cooper, Wes Iwundu, who just came onto the team because they were decimated. I mean, that's a lot of names that are inactive today. Many of them would normally be irrelevant, Adam, but on a spot like this, especially if Trae Young remains out, you're down to just straight skeleton crew.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's more guys out for Atlanta than active tonight, at least with the way things look right now. So this is one of the more interesting starting lineups that I think we're waiting on because Atlanta has no actual point guards active. They have no power forwards active. When you think about Chicago's starting lineup, you really only have the one big in Vooch. And you've gotten 0 minutes this season of Capella alongside Gorgie Jang. So my expectation is that you get a starting lineup of Stevenson, Mays, Bogdanovich, Reddish, and Capella. But you certainly could get Gorgie Jang in the starting lineup in place of Stevenson. You certainly could get any random dude in place of Stevenson. But basically Stevenson is, in my opinion, the next guy up because you sort of have the regular Hawks, then you have like Stevenson, and then you have like this third wave of guys that they've had to sign. So I think Stevenson's probably ahead of those guys in the rotation, but definitely paying attention to the starting lineup there because if Stevenson starts, it's likely that you're getting 30 minutes or so from him at 3,100. If Gorgie Jang starts alongside Capella, that indicates that they're clearly willing to play them alongside each other, which would mean that you can give a lot more minutes to Gorgie Jang than I think I'm comfortable giving him if he comes off the bench, given that he's played 0 minutes alongside him this year.
Somebody asked, how is this game only a 4.5 point spread? I updated that like 2 hours ago I guess an hour ago when I submitted the run sheet. It's 3.5 now. So it's actually moving in the opposite direction as some of you might be thinking. So yeah, 3.5 point spread now. I'm sorry. How many did you say you think will be active, Adam, if Young is out?
I believe they have 10 active.
10 active. Okay. I guess it's time to talk priorities in a spot like this for players that you haven't already mentioned right now. And anything could change. We don't have Trae Young projected in right now. That could change. If it does, obviously a lot will be different. Bogdanovich, Reddish, and Mays all pulling 20+%. How many of these guys on this team, and you can add whoever else you'd like as well, Capella, Gorgie Jang, whoever you want, how many of them are you willing to play in the same lineup on a 7-game slate?
I think 4 would be my max. I don't really want to go more than 3, I don't think, because it's not like they're all really cheap. They're underpriced, but like Capella's still pretty expensive. Bogdanovich, Reddish, both 5K plus. But yeah, I mean, 4 in like a lineup here or there, I think I'm fine with. 3 is probably where I'd really like to end up though. But you have, as far as priorities go, Bogdanovich, Reddish, Mays, I think all look like priorities. Bogdanovich played about 36 or 37 minutes last game. He's averaged about a fantasy point per minute without Young or Collins on the floor since last season. Cam Reddish is just shy of a fantasy point per minute. He's likely to play 38 plus minutes here. And then Skylar Mays, I don't really see a way that he doesn't play a ton of minutes. He's one of the only actual Hawks semi-rotation guys available. He's only 3,800 on DraftKings. He's 4,300 on FanDuel. He's averaged close to a fantasy point per minute without those guys on the floor as well. So he looks really good. And then the next tier of guys is kind of Clint Capella. I expect him to play north of 30 minutes. I expect him to produce at a high rate, but he is also only center eligible and he is relatively expensive. And then whichever one of Gorgie Jang or Lance Stevenson starts, I think will look like a very good value. Whichever one comes off the bench looks like a riskier but still decent value in tournaments.
How many minutes would you give Jang if he starts?
26.
Okay. And as a +1 per minute, a +1 fantasy point per minute guy, that's pretty nice.
Right. But if he comes off the bench, I think it's likely that he's playing like 20 to 22.
Okay. Yeah, I would think that makes sense. John, we do have Tatum ruled out. Sabotage. He's got a Roto Grinders avatar in there. It's just straight sabotage with this guy. Trying to make us look bad. Avi Schreier, Williams, and Gordon or Zubats and Conley on FanDuel, Adam.
I think Zubats and Conley.
Okay. We had one more super chat that I think I missed. I don't know if here we go. Keith, by the end of next year, I would take over second place in the DFS industry. Keith, the better. All right, fella. Well, thank you for that. And best of luck to you. All right. So let's keep going here. Top options from this game. And somebody also asked, would you play DeRozan? Are you limiting DeRozan, Vooch, and Levine in lineups today to 1 or 2 of them?
I'm not setting a rule, but I'm not.
You're not going to get many lineups with all 3 of them in your lineup anyway.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Let's start Boston and Minnesota. Unless you have anything else for Atlanta that you want to get to. I know it's a mess.
No, that's it. Just keep an eye out on the starting lineup.
Yeah. And Trae Young, of course. Boston's another interesting one because you don't have Jason Tatum. So no Tatum, no Schroeder, no Josh Richardson. And we're still waiting on Marcus Smart, which is another significant one. Now, this is a laceration on his hand. It's not COVID-19 related. So we'll pay close attention to that. 8 p.m. tip, though. So it's an hour after the first game tips. There's 2 games prior to that one. It's an island 8 p.m. game, only one of those. We got to start with Jaylen Brown here, Adam. He's going to get a ton of ownership. He's definitely priced up to a point where it's not just I wouldn't call it a free square, but he's definitely a good play. And I think ownership suggests the same thing. He's not a free square like he would be if he was priced where he normally would be in the event that Tatum was ruled out an hour ago, but he's getting around 23%. And the rest of the team is pretty much just like high to mid single digits.
Yeah, Brown looks good here. I mean, 9,300 on DraftKings looks good. 8K on FanDuel looks great. He gets a sizable bump without Jason Tatum on the floor. This year, he's got a 36% usage rate. He's likely to play a bunch of minutes. He played about 37 last game, so it's likely you get 36 plus here from Brown. And he's got guard and forward eligibility, which is really nice. So it looks like a really strong option, probably one of the better pay-up options on the slate.
All right, so with Schroeder being out as well, if Marcus Smart plays, what type of opportunity? I mean, he's coming off 40 minutes played last game in that 4-point loss to Milwaukee. Obviously, Smart isn't the best per minute guy on this team, but when you take both of Schroeder and Tatum off, What does that do for Marcus Smart, assuming he's active? And if he's active, he's not going to be limited because it's just a hand injury. It's a cut on his hand.
Yeah, it makes Smart just sort of look like a tournament option. There's a lot of good guards in the 6 to 6,500 range on DraftKings. I think Smart is one of them. He's likely to give you 36 plus minutes, just like Jaylen Brown is. Like you said, he's not the highest usage guy, but he does get a bump with Jason Tatum out. So kind of just looks like, as long as the ownership's relatively low, which right now he's at 8%, it looks like a guy that you can use as a contrarian option in tournaments. We have him with a 12.5% chance of being in the optimal lineup, only 8% ownership. So looks like he's going a little bit under-owned.
All right, and then one more here, Al Horford. I just want to hit on all of these guys since Horford's had a pretty big resurgence this season in very limited minutes played without both Tatum and Dennis Schroeder. Horford's per minute production is, I think, 1.14, but he's played hardly any time with both of them off the floor. Obviously, Tatum's a lot more important here, and we know that this is going to benefit him regardless. Adam, he's a skilled passer for a big man, decent enough rebounder, but at his current price point, assuming he plays another 34 minutes, where are you at on him? He's also coming in very low owned as well, single digits.
Yeah, I really like him in tournaments. And the Boom Bust tool has him with a 20% chance of being optimal, only 9% ownership. And you were naming the reasons. Like, we don't have a big sample size of Horford playing without Tatum because it just, kind of worked out where the games earlier this year that Tatum missed, Horford also missed. So he's only played 56 minutes alongside Jaylen Brown without Tatum. But the combination of sort of seeing what his rates do without Tatum on the floor, where, he gets a little bit of a bump in usage, he gets a little bit of a bump in rebounding and in assist percentage, it coincides with what you expect. Al Horford is someone that can be a facilitator. He can rebound. He can score a little bit. So when you think about, who else is on the floor for Boston, Marcus Smart can do some of that stuff. Jaylen Brown's going to pick up a lot of it. Romeo Langford's not going to do anything. Robert Williams isn't going to do anything. Like, he's not going to start getting a bunch of assists. He's not going to become a high usage guy. So there's still just a little bit of rebounding, a little bit of assists, a little bit of usage available for Horford, who's already been good this season. So I think that at low ownership with power forward eligibility, it makes him look like a very strong tournament play.
Yeah, these do-it-all type of bigs are always pretty appealing when you get spots where you take two of the top 3 ball handlers off the floor. And he's got an 18% assist rate, which is solid for a big. 14% rebound rate, not a high usage player, but that'll come up a little bit as well. So yeah, all good points. Anything else for Boston before we talk about the Timberwolves?
Peyton Pritchard at 4,300. I'm not super interested if Smart is in, but if Smart is out, then Pritchard probably becomes a really good value.
All right. So you've got Towns, you have D'Angelo Russell, you have Anthony Edwards, you have Jared Vanderbilt, it is a pretty significant one as well. Naz Reid being out is actually huge, and that's where we're going to get a lot of our value today. All of those guys, all 5 of them are out. Now, Patrick Beverley's questionable. We can get to that in a second, but we have to start in the front court here because when you look at the fact that Towns is out, Naz Reid played massive minutes last game. Now he's out. We're talking about someone in Nathan Knight being the guy today, Adam, at a center position where he could play considerable minutes and is justifiably pulling a lot of ownership.
Yeah, he's a good fantasy producer when he's on the floor. He's really cheap. The only downside is that he's center only, but pretty tough to get away from him in terms of point per dollar value. And also, just as an aside, Jayshawn Tate is now out for Houston.
Okay.
And so is Kenyon Martin Jr.
COVID?
Yeah.
You want to go back to that?
Not yet. We'll probably get more news.
All right, let's go back. I'm going to talk about Yahoo after this Minnesota spot, and then we'll go back if it settles, if the dust settles, which, it won't, but we'll see. Did you want to hit on anything else for Knight, just in terms of tournament strategy, overall game theory on a guy that's going to be very popular today?
No, I mean, he's just so cheap. I think that there's certainly a point on this slate where you want to be really, cognizant of ownership, just because there are plenty of alternatives. But he's also it's so hard to fail at 3,300 when you're on a really shorthanded team, and when you're a very good point per play. So and point per minute producer. So like in the boom bust tool, for example, we have Knight being over owned. We have him at 34% ownership with a 21% chance of being the optimal lineup. But at the same time, his boom percentage is 61%. So he's succeeding a huge percentage of the time. And normally there's just going to be, it's going to be easier to find pivots amongst, like, for example, the 6K guys. Just as a quick example off the top of my head, you have like Eric Bledsoe and Derek White that are going to be getting ownership. They are better plays than Marcus Smart, but their range of outcomes is about the same. So you can go to Marcus Smart. Whereas when you're talking about $3,300 guys, there's not going to be that many guys that give you that same ceiling that Nathan Knight does.
Nope. We love value centers that are going to get minutes. How many minutes are you giving it?
I went to 26. I really think the range is anywhere from like 24 to 36, though.
What does the rest of the center rotation look like then with Towns and Reed out?
I have absolutely no idea.
And Vanderbilt out.
Right. So you have Chris Silva available. I assume he's going to get some backup center minutes. I'm not expecting him to get all of them. I'm
this
assuming
guy's on a 10-day contract. Like, that's not, this is Chris Silva we're talking about.
Right. Yeah. So like, I'm not expecting it to be like 28 minutes tonight and 20 to Silva. I'm guessing that you just get some small lineups from Minnesota too, and they just say screw it. Jaden McDaniels, Balmaro, whoever, just getting a little bit of a run. So I don't have a good feel for the center rotation. I don't think that. So in their last game, you basically got 48 minutes from Naz Reid and Nathan Knight. I don't think that you're going to get 48 minutes from two centers tonight. I assume that they kind of just go small when they need to.
Yeah, Jake Layman playing the 5.
Right.
It should be fun. Kevin Porter active but unlikely to play.
Same for Jalen Green, I think.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah.
Layman played 36 minutes last game. It's crazy with what's COVID does to getting guys monster minutes that would generally be playing very few. Some of them not at all. So it's not just Nathan Knight here that's going to be, getting a little bit of ownership. You got Beasley as somebody, McDaniels in there. We have Patrick Beverly in right now, but he's still questionable. How many Minnesota Timberwolves are you looking to get to today against the Celtics?
I'll probably cap it at 3. I think Knight looks very good. Beasley looks good. If Beverly's in, he looks very good. I don't mind Jalen Noel or Jake Layman, but I do think that they still have enough available bodies and that you could just get a pretty messy rotation.
So do you not think Layman plays another huge amount of minutes?
I think he plays low to mid-30s.
Okay.
I'd forgotten too, though. They do have Greg Monroe, who I'm assuming is active tonight.
Greg Monroe. Is it crazy how many people are back in the league that you never thought you'd hear from again?
The crazy thing is that so many of these guys are so much younger than I realized. Like Lance Stevenson's only 31. Greg Monroe is only 31.
There's no way Greg Monroe is 31 years old.
Pretty sure I just saw a tweet saying he was 31.
He is.
Yeah.
I got 3 years on Greg Monroe. I remember being a kid and thinking these were like grown men. You know what I mean? And that's so nuts, man. 31 years old. Wow. Okay. Do you think he plays?
Probably. I don't know. So that, I guess he is the one thing to mention. If for whatever reason he starts, then downgrade Nathan Knight. I think that goes without saying, but I'm assuming Knight starts, but that would just kind of ruin that.
That'd be hilarious. Okay, well, hold on. If Greg Monroe starts,
he's not in the player pool.
I know, but if Greg Monroe starts, would Nathan Knight become a? I actually let me just throw this out there. If Greg Monroe, I don't think it will happen, but you never know. If he does, would you say?
I said neither do I.
No, but if he does start and has one of those rotations where it's like 8 minutes in the first half and 8 minutes in the second, you know how they'll start him like 8 and that's it. And then you get all the rest of the minutes from Knight off the bench. It's there, but it's still not something I'm looking forward to. And I also don't think there's any way that happens. I wouldn't be. When's the last time he stepped on a basketball court?
I have no idea. Monroe also didn't go to Ohio State. You're thinking of Greg Oden. But
to me?
No, I'm talking to the guy in chat that said Monroe looked 40 at Ohio State.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I mean, if if Monroe somehow started, Knight would still be viable in tournaments. Extremely risky, but like you're saying, you could easily just get like 2 8-minute stints from Monroe. But I'm assuming
and 30
Knight starts.
from Knight off the bench. Yeah,
Right. I'm assuming Knight starts and that you're getting mid-20s from him.
Anything else for Minnesota?
No. Yeah, I mean, still waiting on a lot of pieces here because Beverly changes things. If Beverly's out, you get Jordan McLaughlin, you get Jalen Noel looking better. So, yeah, still just kind of a lot of moving pieces.
All right. 3 down, 4 to go. We'll recap Houston. We'll touch back on that for sure. And anything that breaks, anything that we don't get to, that's why we got live before lock as well. They will cover it all. Josh Ingham and Greg Ehrenberg coming up next. But hey, Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. I don't know how much longer this is going on for, but if you use the promo code XMAS100, XMAS100, all one word, you get up to $100 first match deposit bonus when you sign up using that promo code. Now, I was told by a bunch of people in chat. I don't know. For those of you guys that did it, let me know. Again, a lot of people were saying, Jordan, I know you saw this yesterday on the Deeper Dive for NFL. A lot of people were saying that it wasn't a first match deposit bonus, that they just deposited like 25 and got 100. So I don't know. Maybe one of you guys can confirm that. Maybe Jordan can. But either way, it's a solid bonus. And even better, when you sign up there, you're getting a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum as well. $90 value. I mean, we're just giving everything away, giving away the farm in our partnership with Yahoo. So check it out. Awesemo Plus Platinum, everything on the site, every single sport, every tool, all of which created by Alex Baker, Awesemo himself, #1 ranked DFS player out there. If you do that, you got to use the link that Jordan's putting in the chat. You got to use the link that's in the description if you want to use that. And then use that XMAS100 when you sign up as well. You'll get the $100 deposit bonus. You'll get the free month of Awesemo Plus. And you get to jump into some of these huge contests that they're doing. $1 million baller each week. They have lower management fees than any other site out there, hands down. There's no question. You may have heard them referred to as rake. Got like negative 25% management fees on these big $1 million contests. You get this is the biggest, like all of this stuff is great, but you double everything up. Like min cash is double your entry fee on these big contests. You don't get that anywhere else anymore. And if you do, they're certainly not still paying out 20+% of the field. So in terms of bankroll sustainability, there's no better place than Yahoo right now. Use that promo code, use the link. They'll email us, we'll email you, get you set up, and check all of that out while it's still going on. Hop in the 100K Monday Night Baller tonight for NFL, 20K up top, and all of that great stuff. And the last thing, if you get that free month, use all of our tools for Yahoo. Projections, ownership, boom bust tool, top stack, lineup builder, all that great stuff. Man, let's be frank. You'd be dumb not to take advantage of this if you haven't done so already. So we'd love to have you over there. Check it out and hit us up when you get over there. Join our Discord as well. All right, Adam, let's keep it going. Let's circle back real quick on Houston. What do you have for me now that we have these players out and we know that Porter Jr. and Green are not expected to play despite being active?
Yeah, suddenly there's a lot of minutes available here. So my guess is that you're going to get Brooks and Christopher in the starting lineup in place of Porter and Green. You certainly could get DJ Augustine. That's a possibility as well. DeAndre Ayton is out tonight. Who starts for Tate, I think, is a bigger question. It's probably Daniel Tice based on what we've seen in the past, but he also, hasn't been in the rotation at all recently. So that's, this is the first game of the night. We'll get this information, but
DeAndre Ayton's out with COVID now too. So
yeah.
Lock up everyone getting it for Phoenix.
Yeah, and also JaVale McGee taking a center spot.
Oh, that's going to be huge.
Yeah. So, yeah, my guess of the starting lineup is Brooks, Christopher, Gordon, Tice, Wood. But I really have no idea outside of being confident that Wood, Gordon, and probably Brooks to start. I think the final two pieces could kind of be anybody.
Okay.
Brooks is 4,400, so if he does start, he's going to look like a good value. Christopher is going to look like a good value at 3,700, particularly if he starts. If Daniel Tice starts at 3,100, he is a risky value, but certainly worth taking some shots on against Charlotte. Similarly, you could get Şengün looking like a good play, but we just haven't really seen them play a ton of Wood alongside Şengün, and Charlotte is a smaller team as well.
Utah, San Antonio. Big old women. You don't know what that's from, do you?
I wasn't listening. I was listening, but what you said didn't register.
Do you remember Charles Barkley got in all that trouble because he was
yeah. San Antonio.
The churros,
Yeah.
the bloomers. And he just didn't care. I think eventually he's like, I just can't, I'm not going to do this anymore. But, oh, man, did he make for some good entertainment. Utah and San Antonio, the Utah Jazz without Donovan Mitchell today, Adam. So let's dive deep into this one. Pulling up ownership, which was recently updated. We will obviously be doing a lot of updates leading up to lock because there's so much shit going on. But to kick it off with, and Chris, thank you. Chris Karen said, confirmed $25 he deposited on Yahoo, got 100 back. That's pretty good stuff. All right, Utah, what are we doing with Jordan Clarkson?
Oh, hang on. So I wanted to clarify. Josh pointed it out, and I hadn't seen it on the injury report, but DJ Augustine is out, so it makes it more likely that you're getting Brooks and Christopher.
Okay. Clarkson, we'll kick it off with that for Utah.
Yeah, so Mitchell being out, it basically just makes it so everybody on Utah looks better than they normally do. I'm expecting that Joe Ingles starts in place of Mitchell, probably plays around 30 minutes. Looks like a good value at 3,700. But Clarkson also likely to play more minutes off the bench. You're probably going to get around 28 minutes from him. He has a 30.5% usage rate without Mitchell on the floor, so it makes him look like a good option. Mike Conley's another one of these mid 6K guys that looks fantastic, likely to get 28 to 30 minutes from him. His usage rate and his assist percentage jump without Mitchell, as you would expect. And then even guys like Bojan Bogdanovic, 27.7% usage rate without Mitchell since last year, looks a lot better. So it's just a team full of guys that look pretty good.
Okay. Who are your favorites? Just to run down the list here.
Conley, Clarkson, Ingles, Bogdanovic, Gobert, O'Neal, Gay, Whiteside, probably in that order.
Okay.
But literally those guys are all playable.
Yeah, for sure. And Jordan, make sure when we get to Phoenix to add that Ayton news in there. I'm not going to be able to do it on the fly right now. It's next game up. Let's talk about San Antonio, though. Each team missing their top player, Adam. So no Donovan. Well, relatively speaking, you want to talk about Rudy Gobert, that's fine. But I don't have the time to argue. San Antonio's without DeJounte Murray as well, because I know Josh would say that Rudy Gobert is an MVP candidate as he does each year. So, Josh, I hear you, bro. But anyway, what are we doing with DeJounte Murray being out on the other side?
So Murray being out should benefit Derek White. He was really popular yesterday, only played about 16 minutes because the Spurs absolutely annihilated the Pistons. But you should get 34 minutes or so from White. His usage rate jumps a few points without Murray on the floor. His assist percentage jumps to about 28%. He's another mid-6K guard that looks very good. So he looks good. The rest of it, though, I'm not that interested in. You can certainly get to Jakob Poeltl. Keldon Johnson looks okay, but this is another team where I'm kind of curious what the starting lineup's going to be. Yesterday, they went with a pretty big lineup that had Keldon Johnson and Ketta Bates-Diop and McDermott and Poeltl. They won the game easily, so normally you don't see coaches change up a starting lineup after that. But do keep an eye out because if Lonnie Walker or Devin Vassell were to start, it would obviously be a bullish sign for their minutes.
What's the ownership like right now on this San Antonio team? Sorry, there was someone spamming in chat about how he made out with my wife before I did. Which this dude's been doing that for years.
I was gonna say, I thought I'd heard that before.
For a year. And he said it happened at Temple, which I went to Temple. She didn't. I don't know. Maybe it did. If so, congratulations, dude. But with the Spurs, Derek White, Keldon Johnson, those are the two guys north of 10%. Nobody's really pulling like an absurd amount of ownership. Usually when, and understandably, when you've got when was DeJounte Murray's last game? The 23rd, right? So he last played on the 23rd. They've played one game in between that, so some prices have come up. But usually you'd see a little bit more on this. Granted, it's not the best matchup against Utah either.
Yeah, it's a tough matchup. And the kind of weird thing with Murray is, as good as he is, it's not like he's a 30+% usage guy or anything like that. He's around 25%. So you can kind of just like distribute that usage where White's getting a bump, Johnson's getting a little bit of a bump, but it's not necessarily enough to make anybody like a can't miss play. Ownership wise, you're getting about 18% coming into Derek White, about 11% on Keldon Johnson. Not much going anywhere else, which I don't really think that it should. I would say that, in larger field tournaments, somebody like Devin Vassell at 3,700 is certainly a low-owned guy that you can mix into a lineup or two. But I don't outside of White and a little bit of Johnson, I don't really see a whole lot from San Antonio.
Okay. Josh coming in with the disrespect, by the way. That's just straight disrespect right there, man.
Did you say Josh?
Yeah. I don't know.
I didn't see what he said.
You can go back and look.
I'm looking for it. Oh, got it.
Anything else for San Antonio?
No.
All right, let's talk about Memphis and Phoenix. Jordan, you got that queued up, right? For my man. Jordan Klein, everybody. Give him a round of applause. Memphis, let's talk about this team. Pretty big dogs on the road here, down to some key players. Dylan Brooks, D'Anthony Melton out against Phoenix. Now, this was 8.5. There's no way this is even. Okay, it's 7 now. I thought they would just pull it in anticipation that more players would be ruled out. So it's down to 7 now that we got that 8 and there's 220.5 total. What are your thoughts on Memphis right now? Even without Phoenix or even without Ayton, this is still one of the best teams in the league. Still a good defense. It's not the greatest spot, all things considered, for the Grizzlies.
Yeah, it's not the greatest spot, but I do think it's one where there's some really high upside plays that aren't getting a ton of ownership. In particular, Ja Morant. We saw just a fantastic start to the season from Morant before Dylan Brooks came back. Brooks out tonight. You've gotten 14 games this year where Morant has played without him. And Morant has about a 33% usage rate, a 37% assist percentage. You're likely to get 32 to 34 minutes from him here. So it's not somebody I'm building around, but it is someone that has easy 50-plus fantasy point upside at like sub 10% ownership. So he looks pretty good. Any of Jaren Jackson, Desmond Bane, Kyle Anderson, Steven Adams, all for ceilings, but they are difficult to prioritize on the slate. From a value standpoint, it's likely to get John Contra in the starting lineup again. He probably plays around 30 minutes and looks decent at 3,100, but still not the highest upside play given this slate.
Let's flip to Phoenix. It's JaVale McGee night, baby. It's JaVale McGee night. And we know JaVale McGee nights generally end pretty well, except if you're that one guy who a few weeks ago was like, man, I played him on FanDuel at low ownership the other day and he sucked, when really he had like 40 fantasy points. But listen, Adam, in all seriousness, I know we don't have a ton of time here, but he is one of the best fantasy point per minute guys in the league. And that's not hyperbole. Like, he really is. DraftKings, if you take into account like fantasy points per game, fantasy point per minute production based on his per game numbers, just give it like factoring in the double bonuses and stuff like that, he's averaging 1.46 DraftKings points per minute on the season. The guy's an absolute killer if you give him some minutes. Yeah,
for sure. He's averaged. So McGee has started 8 games now with 8 and out. He's averaged 1.37 DraftKings points per minute, 21.4 minutes per game. But you can't read into the minutes per game because you had those games where Frank Kaminsky was active. Kaminsky's out. Saric is out. It should pretty much be the JaVale McGee show here with Jalen Smith probably backing him up, I would assume. It's likely that you're getting mid-20s in minutes from McGee, who's one of the best per-minute producers that there is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this as somebody who, at his price point, he's not minimum salary because he's actually pretty decent. But where do you think his ownership settles in at now at that mid 4K price point?
Mid 30s.
And how much does it take Knight? They're both only center eligible. You're probably going to see a lot of lineups with both of these guys too.
Yeah, it probably does drive Knight down a bit though, just because I think there are more question marks.
It definitely will. I'm just saying, right. I think you'll have a lot of lineups with both as well.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. I would expect McGee to end up being higher owned than Knight now, but Knight to still get plenty of ownership, assuming he started.
What else with Phoenix now? Jay Crowder's out too.
Yeah, so Crowder is out. Trae Young is in for Atlanta.
Oh, he's in.
Yeah, that changes everything, and we can go back to that in a minute. But with Crowder out, there are 28 to 30 minutes available. It's likely that you get 30 plus from Cameron Johnson. Still doesn't make him look great on this particular slate, but somebody can get to it relatively low ownership. I like some of the pricing here though, because in addition to McGee, who clearly stands out as a top option, only $8,100 for Devin Booker coming off a game where he played 40 minutes. If you get 35 or 36 minutes from him, he's going to look really good at that price. $7,900 for Chris Paul coming off a game he played 37. Even if he plays 33 or 34, he looks reasonable. And I don't think either guy is going to get a ton of ownership here. Right now we have Booker projected for 12% on DraftKings, Paul projected for 9%. I like getting to both of those guys in tournaments.
Okay. Should we hit on Jordan? We're going to have to skip the Hall of Fame today. We'll do it tomorrow. There's no way we're getting there. But you guys know how it works. If you go to awesemo.com/avatar and use the Awesemo avatar on FanDuel, Yahoo, DraftKings, finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, and tweet us at Awesemo HOF. You can put the graphic up if you want. I know I'm asking a lot of you, Jordan. If you do all of that and then tweet us at Awesemo HOF with your win with the screenshot, you get inducted into the Awesemo Hall of Fame and you win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. So, I mean, it's just big stuff around here. You get all that love on Twitter, all that great stuff. There it is right there. Super simple to do. Rep the Awesemo avatar, get inducted, get that free month. And on days where it's not as crazy as this, we'll definitely shout everybody out and hit on all of those big wins, all of those screenshots that we've had from the previous day, days, weeks, whatever it is. So, yeah, join us in the movement to rock that Awesemo avatar and make things happen. All right, back to what we were talking about. Did you have anything else with Phoenix, or should we circle back to Atlanta real quick?
No, I think we can get back to Atlanta.
Okay, go ahead. I'm not even going to get involved here. We still got 2 games to go.
Yeah, so I assume now that your starting lineup is Trae Young, Skylar Mays, Bogdanovich, Reddish, Capella. I think that Young coming back, it clearly hurts everybody, but I think that the guys, Bogdanovich, Reddish, Mays, that already we were really confident in, I still think look really good, even though their rates come down a bit. They're still likely to play a lot of minutes. I think that it's more likely now than it already was that Gorgie Jang is just the backup to Clint Capella. Could be wrong there, but you're getting Trae Young back, and according to him at least, he wasn't experiencing symptoms. He's been tweeting through all of this that he's fine. So I'm expecting him to just come back. He only missed 9 or 10 days to just come back and be good to go. He has a 37% usage rate without John Collins on the floor since the start of last season. He's averaged 1.41 DraftKings points per minute over that time. I think he looks like a good option at 10,500. Again, going under the assumption that he was asymptomatic and isn't going to experience some of the issues that other guys have in their conditioning.
Okay. Anything else there? We got to cover. And again, Live Before Lock coming up next. They can hit on a lot of that too. I
think that it, as disappointing as it is, it makes Lance Stevenson not look very good anymore.
It's not too disappointing though.
I really am trying to get a Lance Stevenson game before this all ends.
I want a Greg Monroe game. All right.
It'll be tonight when nobody can play him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yep. And then Knight's just going to be Knight's going to play 13 minutes.
Right.
Monroe comes and plays 30 plus minutes out of the gate. The guy can't jump over a dime. Never could. But you put him under the basket, he'll give you 10 and 10.
He was always such a good DFS player,
Great.
And not very good fantasy player, or not very good real player.
Right. And watching him play, it was always kind of impressive because there was nothing really, supremely athletic about this guy by any means. But he got it done. The guy got it done. There were years, I know you remember this. There were some years with Detroit where he was with, what was his name? Josh Smith?
Yeah, Josh Smith from the Hawks and then went to Detroit.
Yeah. Those were the years where both of those guys produced. And Greg Monroe had some really big seasons. But anyway, we don't have time to reminisce on big Greg Monroe years back in 2012. Let's talk about the 2 games remaining that we've got here. What do we have? Dallas, Portland, and Brooklyn, LA, and the Clippers. So let's talk about Dallas. No Doncic, no Hardaway, no Kleber, no Reggie Bullock, no Trey Burke. To kick it off with Porzingis, where do you go with him tonight?
Yeah, Porzingis looks really good at 8,600. He played 34 minutes last game, so there's not too much reason to be concerned about his playing time. You're probably going to get 32 to 34 minutes again, but he's been fantastic without without Luka. He looks very good here against a shorthanded Portland team that sucks defensively anyway. Now you have them missing several bigs in their front court. So Porzingis looks fantastic. You also have Jalen Brunson at 7,700 on DraftKings. He also looks very good. Without Doncic, in the games he's played this year without Doncic and with Porzingis, he has a 26.7% usage rate. Assist percentage is around 40%. You're likely to get mid-30s in minutes from him. So Porzingis and Brunson still look really good. The rest of this team, not quite as appealing as they have been in the past. Dorian Finney-Smith should be back tonight. His price tag has come up. You still have potential value on guys like Sterling Brown and Frank Ntilikina, but getting 30 to 32 minutes of those guys, give or take, isn't really something I'm too drawn to on this slate.
Okay. So would you put any priorities in play for Dallas? I know you like Porzingis. Would you consider him a top option among the guys that are in that range? Yeah.
Yeah, Porzingis and Brunson both. And right now they're both projected to be a bit under-owned as well. Porzingis, 21% chance of being optimal on DraftKings with 18% ownership. Brunson, 29% chance of being optimal with 15% ownership.
Okay. Let's talk about Portland then. Dame is questionable. We have him in right now. So that's going to be massive significance in the event that he doesn't play. He's dealing with a personal issue here, Adam. Let me just get this out of the way first. If Dame doesn't play, right? I know it's a 10 p.m. game. Maybe we get this news sooner than later. What are you doing?
If Dame doesn't play, it's going to make it makes the usage for Norman Powell look a lot better. It makes Anthony Simons look like one of the best values on the slate at 4,300. But the nice thing is, even if we get that news late, there's not necessarily one easy swap to make, but you're probably going to just have pieces from this game that's going to make it easy for you to like mix, swap a couple of spots. Even if you don't, if it's on DraftKings, the worst case scenario is that you're just swapping Damian Lillard to Kristaps Porzingis and leaving a little bit of money on the table, which isn't ideal, but it's fine. So I think that it's not too big. It's not too risky to play Dame, but if he's out, it just makes guys on Portland, particularly Powell and Simons, look better.
Maddie, no, we'll do this. I try and do it on every show. I don't have time to do the Hall of Fame today, but yeah, I try and do it on every show. And by the way, let me just say, almost 500 likes. I haven't asked since maybe a minute into this. So strong sense of pride right now and appreciation. Thanks, guys. We're going to crush that number without even having to talk about it. So much appreciated for sure. And subscribe if you haven't done so yet. We're almost 70K. Talk to me about what you're doing with the rest of Portland here. We're up against it.
Yeah, Larry Nance looks like a strong value, power forward eligible. I assume he's going to start at center tonight with Nurkic and Zeller out. Probably plays mid-30s at 5,200. Nas Little likely to play mid-30s as well. He's cheap at 4,200. Norman Powell looks fine, but not like a priority. Same goes for Anthony Simons. If Lillard is out, again, both of those guys look a lot better. Similarly, if Lillard plays, he looks good at 10-1. He's likely to give you 38-plus minutes if he's active. He has a 34% usage rate without McCollum or Nurkic on the floor since last season. So he looks like a very strong option if he's able to go.
All right. An insane day of news. So we'll wrap it up here, Adam, with the last game and toss it over to the Live Before Lock crew. They'll take you up to 7. Then you got NFL Live Before Lock. Definitely stick around for that. 37-point total in tonight's game, but hey, 500K up top. So we'll take it. 20K over on Yahoo as well. If you want to sign up using the promo code NR Link, get a free month of Awesemo and $100 match deposit bonus. Brooklyn and the LA Clippers. No Kevin Durant today, Adam. That's pretty significant that he remains out. LaMarcus Aldridge is out. And then on the other side, Paul George won't be reevaluated for another 3 weeks to a month. Reggie Jackson's out. We got news that Nicholas Batum is out. So a lot of parts, there were a lot of moving parts here, but it looks like we have a pretty good idea of what's going on both sides. Yeah,
pretty much just still waiting on Marcus Morris news. From the Brooklyn side, James Harden, clearly the top option on the slate. I assume that I will have a massive amount of him. There's so much value to get to. It's not going to be difficult to get Harden plus another good player or two or whatever, and then fill it out with value around it. And there's also just so much value that there's going to be plenty of guys that like 10x tonight. It's just a matter of getting the right ones. So Harden looks great. He's averaged about 1.6 to 1.7 DraftKings points per minute without Durant or Kyrie since last year. He played 36 to 37 minutes last game, so no playing time concerns. He looks fantastic. Outside of that, Bruce Brown looks reasonable at 4,700. Nick Claxton played 32 minutes last game. I'm not confident he gets back there, and center is absolutely loaded tonight, so tough to prioritize him. But Harden for sure a priority on the Brooklyn side. On the Clippers side, Eric Bledsoe looks like the only priority at 6K. He played about 36 minutes last night. His assist percentage without George or Jackson on the floor this year is 36%. He's got about a 22% usage rate. Looks like a strong option here. Any of Zubats, Mann, Kennard are reasonable plays. And then the Marcus Morris piece matters because if he's in, I don't really care to get to Morris on this slate. But if he's out, you already have Nick Batum ruled out. So you would start to get a lot of playing time for Brandon Boston Jr. and or Amir Coffey and or Justice Winslow as potential value pieces.
All right. Top options from this game as we put a bow on it.
Bledsoe and Harden.
Okay. Well, appreciate you guys. Crush that 500 like mark. Follow Adam at Ship My Money DFS, me at Laffy_D, LOUGHY_D. We do our best to get through this on time. We're already somewhat long-winded to begin with, but with a lot of news coming down the pike, you got to do what you got to do. Josh, Greg coming up next, live before lock, NFL live before lock after that. Hang with us tonight, win some money. Hit us up at Awesemo HOF when you do as well. And we'll be sure to feature you here in every single segment. We'll catch you back here very soon. Thanks as always for hanging out. Peace.
baby. And we are live. Welcome to NBA Live Before Lock. It is Monday, December 27th. I am Josh Engelman. I am joined by Greg Ehrenberg. We are brought to you by Yahoo Sports, and we are probably in for a really interesting 54 minutes, given Trae Young's news that he is now ruled in. But we'll find out. That's for sure. Hit that like button if you haven't done it yet. 2,700 plus people in here, 592 likes. Good work, Laffy. Here's the first question I have for you, Greg, before it's anything about this. Nobody's talked about it. Adam just messaged me, but I thought about it before, so I'm not giving him credit. Is John Wall available today?
I assume not. That's not something I'd considered before, but no, my assumption is that he's not going to play today.
Yeah, okay. Me too. But they only have 9 guys if you don't count Wall, so I just figured I'd throw that out there.
No, they have more than that, don't they?
I don't think so.
They have Knicks that called up from the G League.
Oh, they did call Knicks up? Then that's 10.
They have Travelin' Queen. They have Usman Garuba, Daniel Tice. They've got all the regulars.
I've got all those guys in. I didn't know that they called Knicks up.
I'm fairly sure they did.
Yeah, he's on the injury report as available now. That designation did not exist on the Basketball Monster depth chart.
Yeah, hey, listen, you got to know these end of the bench guys, which it seems stupid, but it kind of is. Just if you're trying to project minutes, the reason it becomes important with these really dumb, and I'm not actually explaining this to you, Josh, I'm explaining this to the audience. But the reason dumb players and I might be mispronouncing his name, Deshaun Nix, the reason it becomes important is when you have these value situations, just giving somebody like that 12 or 14 minutes, it's a massive difference if you're giving somebody like Armani Brooks 26 minutes or 30 minutes or 32 minutes. It's a total difference between you getting to somebody like 5, 10, or 25% of your lineups.
It couldn't be more true. Yeah, the Knicks piece is the one I missed, but knowing that you have a 10th guy when you only think you have 9 is super relevant because you gotta give those minutes to somebody. I did not give them to Knicks prior to this. I don't know how much it matters, but maybe it'll matter when I end up with 25% David Nwaba at this rate. I don't know where to start.
It matters a little bit for guys. I mean, I still like Josh Christopher a lot today. Armani Brooks is still in my player pool. But if I wasn't giving Deshaun Nix, or however you pronounce his name, my apologies to the Knicks family. I've already upset all of the French fans on Twitter today. Some random NFL player who was playing minutes yesterday, who I thought his name was misspelled on the back of his jersey on the Chargers. But yeah, I mean, we just have these guys that are popping up out of nowhere that we have to at least project for.
Yes, we do. I'm projecting your boy Knicks in right now. I don't think Trevelyan Queen is going to be the guy that gets it done.
No,
I don't know where to start at this point any longer. The entire process of working through NBA games is completely done. We just got a super chat from MX. Last man in a FanDuel GPP, Rudy Gay or Justice Winslow? Neither.
Yeah, that's going to be neither for me. I do have a little bit of exposure to Rudy Gay actually in tournaments. So it's a very small percentage. Let's see, FanDuel GPP, Rudy Gay or Justice Winslow. Who's priced around those guys? That's maybe a little bit better of an option. So Rudy Gay is 3,800.
Nathan Knight, Tice,
37. I assume he's looking for a small forward, right?
I don't have a damn clue.
Okay, so let's
Nwaba.
I just assume he's looking for a small forward at 3,800 or lower.
That works. I would rather have David Nwaba. I would rather not have anybody in that range, if we're being perfectly honest. But I think Nwaba is the answer.
I guess I probably would answer Justice Winslow, but I haven't projected for 14 fantasy points.
I have Justice Winslow projected for 13.5.
Yeah, but Marcus Morris is questionable. So there is the situation where, hey, if Marcus Morris is out, I assume that he'd be somebody who I would actually would want to roster a little bit in tournaments at that point. But as of now, it's neither.
Yeah, it's just don't do that one, MX. I promise. Thank you for the super chat. That much I could tell you. But if that's what the last two things are for you right now, and what I assume is one lineup, you got to go back to the drawing board in some way. Cue the Rudy Gay or Justice Winslow massive game now. That's just happening. Adam's just messaging me rotational minutes for Houston, as if I have any ability to look through that right now. Thanks, Adam. I know you're not listening, so even better.
He knows you're on a show, I presume, though. We do cross over with them when we're doing, swapping between the deeper dive and the live before lock. I mean, to me, so the Houston thing's a mess. I already know that's going to be a mess. But the Atlanta Hawks one is the one that's really impacting my lines, because I was just getting to a ton of Atlanta Hawks before. And that's not the case anymore. Like there's still some guys that have a mild amount of interest, but some of these guys have been priced up a little bit. And then you also got guys like Skylar Mays. I don't think he's going to be relevant anymore. I was considering Lance Stevenson as a tournament.
You don't like Skylar Mays any longer?
No, I do not like Skylar Mays any longer.
Any particular reason?
He started and played 9 minutes 3 games ago. And then last game against the Knicks. And by the way, this was with Trae Young out last game. Almost all his production came in garbage time. He played 22 minutes, ends up scoring 11 real life points. And if it was not for garbage time, he ends up scoring like sub 10 fantasy points in that game.
We also now have no DeLon Wright. We have no.
But we have Trae Young.
We do. I think Skylar Mays is starting and playing bigger minutes. No John Collins now too.
But let's see. What's my expect? I think they are going to.
I have more Skylar Mays than anyone else on Atlanta right now.
The thing so here are the players I'm fairly confident. Trae Young is starting. Bogdanovich is starting. Reddish is starting. Clint Capella is starting. I do not know not only do I not know who the fifth starter is, I don't have a good guess at it. If it's Skylar Mays, I'll feel differently. But you could tell me it's going to be Gorgui Dieng. They're going to play 2 bigs in the front court. Wouldn't be surprised. If it's Lance Stevenson, I wouldn't be surprised. They go with Malcolm Hill, and I wouldn't be surprised by that either. So I would change my tune if Skylar Mays is starting. But right now, I assume he comes off the bench and just plays a somewhat minimal role.
Yeah, my expectation is that he's starting. I got him in for 32 minutes right now on FanDuel, 4,300 shooting guard eligible, 3,800 on DraftKings. We're currently projecting him for no ownership. That feels impossible to me. So I'm curious to see how that gets updated because it's got to be more than nothing.
Well, I have him for 18 minutes right now. That changes if he starts.
Wow.
But I haven't liked Skylar Mays at all these last few games, though. He's not somebody I've really rostered.
18 minutes.
I mean,
how many minutes did you give Lance Stevenson?
I think so. Here's what I think, though. I think it's going to be a hodgepodge of minutes. Like I think Mark Ellison could play minutes. I think Cat Barber is going to play minutes. Skylar Mays, Lance Stevenson. I don't differentiate any of these guys really. I think we can look at Skylar Mays and Lance Stevenson as better points per minute fantasy producers, but it's not like either of them are relevant from a real life standpoint. Or there's reasons for these guys to be playing extended minutes when they're on the court. If Skylar Mays starts, like I said, that changes. But or else I don't think he's any different than like Stevenson off the bench.
I just think his minutes upside is a lot higher than everybody else's. And again, that's with the assumption that he's starting. If he's not starting, clearly I'm not giving him 32 minutes and I will have a lot less Skylar Mays. I did not expect us to start the show with me rallying for Skylar Mays. That was not a stance that I was looking to take. I don't want it to seem like I'm very high on Skylar Mays. I'm high on Skylar Mays if we project him for 1% ownership. I'd like to have slightly more than that. We have a couple super chats that came in that I want to hit on. Uzi says, DeRozan, who the hell's J.A.? Ja? Is that Ja Morant? It's gotta be.
So let's see.
It's gotta be that's gotta be Ja Morant. So DeRozan, Ja, or Levine in a high stakes single entry. I don't know what site either.
I kind of like the idea of calling him J.A. Morant though. If we want to make a pivot to that, I'm going to assume DraftKings just because I know that there's a slight lean towards more people who play DraftKings than FanDuel. If this is not the site you play on, then we could revisit this. The other reason that also makes me think this is DraftKings is these guys play different positions. Yeah. So it seems more likely this is somebody who is looking to fit into a guard spot. But let's see. Of those guys, Morant, Levine, and DeRozan.
I have them separated by 1 full fantasy point as an entire group.
It is it's about Levine for me, but I also do not have a massive difference between them.
It's Morant for me, but there's not even a full point separating them. Jay Antonio also had a super chat. Hi guys, how about Layman or Conchar tonight? This is why COVID is a problem because we have to answer these questions. I think it's pretty clearly Conchar. I don't have a huge Jake Layman take, but I would prefer Conchar in this spot.
Yeah, and I think there's reason to think Conchar earned himself potentially extra minutes after how he played last game. We saw last game 28 minutes, 43 DraftKings points from Conchar. So he's my preference of the two. I think he has more upside. Neither of them are massively high priority plays for me, though.
Well, let's try to talk at least about some of your priority plays. Who are some of your priority guards for today?
LaMelo Ball, James Harden, Actually, so the way that the slate has changed for me is now that we have less. Now that Trae Young is in play and he's in the player pool again now, there isn't as much value at guard because there was so much value that was going to be on the Hawks. And whatever, we could squabble about differences about Skylar Mays. I really did like Skylar Mays before news that Trae Young was going to play. Now I'm looking at this slate from this standpoint. There's a ton of value in the front court, in particular guys like JaVale McGee and Nathan Knight today. And I just think it makes a whole lot of sense to pay up at guard, save money with big men. So James Harden, LaMelo Ball are just really, really high priority spend up options for me.
Yeah, I've bumped LaMelo a little bit since my tweet with my picks and stuff. So I'm not as anti-LaMelo. I'm likely to be pretty neutral to the field on LaMelo now. I do want to get that sort of information out. I'm running new crunches now. This is just going to be a really fun and wild slate. From a guard perspective for me, and this is all going to be coming from a FanDuel perspective, I don't have anything else that I could possibly add on Harden. He's very clearly my number one play today. Jaylen Brown on FanDuel is my number two. He's only $8K, so way more affordable on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. Those are the two guys that are pulling the most ownership. I'm happy to get to a bunch of Jalen Brunson, Josh Christopher, David Nwaba are some value options that I'm looking at. We've got Terrence Mann at 7% ownership. That is very appealing to me in GPPs, just given what's going on for the Clippers. Probably one of my favorite GPP plays for today. Just has the ability to go crazy, and the minutes are like he can play as many minutes as he can possibly handle today.
Yeah, I really hope Marcus Morris doesn't play. So Marcus Morris is not actually dealing with any kind of injury right now, but he's just questionable. And apparently this is a conditioning issue. If he doesn't play, there's just going to be a lot of guys on the Clippers that end up going under-owned.
Speaking of guys that are not playing for conditioning, Patrick Beverley out, Josh Okogie in, which means that the entire starting five for the Minnesota Timberwolves is out today.
Greg Monroe minutes.
I can't be rostering people named Greg.
Hey, I don't blame you. That's not my favorite group of people either. But the Patrick Beverley news is once again going to be impactful because I was expecting him to play and to play fairly significant minutes. Let's walk through it. So it seems to me like the first guy up is going to be Jalen Noel. Would you have a different stance there? Let's see. So what guards do they even have available now? So there's Noel. They did play McLaughlin a decent amount in some of these situations last year. Bolmaro sucks, but they've also started Bolmaro in some of these situations. I think this could be a Bolmaro starts and plays very limited minutes for no reason whatsoever, because this is what we've seen from them. The last two times have been short, like super shorthanded in the backcourt. Bolmaro started, played 11 minutes and played 18 minutes. Oof. Yeah, we have not gotten a start out of Jalen Noel, which is interesting. I think Bolmaro starts. Oh my God. I mean, it's a full other starting five. Like there's no comp to this. You know what I mean? Like Jaden McDaniels is going to start. Malik Beasley is going to start. And we assume Nathan Knight is going to start, but I'm really only confident in two of those names. Anybody else can start for Minnesota tonight. And I think that's like not shocking at all. I'm actually kind of curious now because Greg Monroe isn't in the player pool on FanDuel or DraftKings, is he? Not that I'm aware of. Okay, so Greg Monroe he wasn't somebody I was thinking about before, but I'm just double checking right now on the app. So he is not on DK. Now I'm checking FanDuel and he is, all right. Yeah, so he's not on DK or FanDuel. I think Monroe could end up picking up a decent amount of usage when he's on the court today because that's what we've seen from him in the past. But once again, it doesn't matter for fantasy purposes. He's not in the player pool. All right. Yeah. So no Beverly, Russell, Edwards, Vanderbilt, Towns, Reed, or Prince. You can conceivably say that's 7 rotation guys. Does Josh Okogie just start now? I think Bolmaro is going to start. I think Okogie is going to start. And Bolmaro, I can't do anything with Bolmaro starting. His starts have been absolutely abysmal so far this year. Okogie started 1 game this year. He started 2. He started at the beginning of the year too. All right. So overall, we've gone from Okogie this year 5 starts. He's averaging 19 minutes per game in those starts. Super. So I think Okogie starts. I think Bolmaro starts. And I'm going to assume that if Josh Okogie starts, he plays more than
19 minutes.
Yes.
Slightly different circumstances in this one than it has been in the past.
Yes, he's played as many as 35 minutes in the start this year.
Okay. Oh my God. This is a really difficult team to project.
Yeah, because none of these players are real.
That is a true statement. Like, what do we do? Like, do you like Jalen Noel or Jordan McLaughlin today? Like, how many minutes do we like? Do they play 48 minutes combined? They kind of have to, don't they?
They probably play more than that combined.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So they have 11 guys.
And they all suck. It's just 11 terrible basketball players.
Yeah.
And Nathan Knight's going to be like my most rostered player today.
Yeah. I don't know what to do here. I mean, like, I'm going to get a lot of Jalen Noel and Jordan McLaughlin. I don't know where to put their minutes to make that not happen.
So even if they both come off the bench and Bolmaro starts, I'd rather roster both of them than Bolmaro.
Yeah. Agreed. By the way, we had another 2 super chats, maybe. McDaniels or Conchar for the last forward spot on DraftKings. I don't know. The Charlotte McDaniels, by the way.
Or could it be the I like the Minnesota McDaniels a little bit too.
It's the Charlotte one in the question.
Oh, okay. So it is Charlotte McDaniels or
Conchar. That's Charlotte McDaniels for me, I think.
That is Jalen McDaniels for me.
And then we had another one from Uzi that said Nathan Knight, Norm Powell, or Nance and Ingles on FanDuel.
Nathan Knight, Norman Powell, especially if Lillard's out.
Man. Yeah, I agree. It's Nathan Knight and Norm Powell, especially if Lillard is out. Guys, schedule for the rest of the day. I need to get this in here now. NFL Live Before Lock is coming up at 7:15 Eastern time for Dolphins Saints, which should just be a real barn burner for everybody. Make sure the show will be better than the game. Make sure you watch the show. NBA ownership rankings and NFL projections are free for tonight. So check all that stuff out. Where do you want to go from here, man? Whatever. Is there anything you want to talk about this slate? I don't know how to plan this any longer.
So we got, by the way, Greg Monroe is officially available today. So something else also, we got a question in our Discord chat that was related to Trae Young. And what happened?
I don't know if you saw this quote. We retweeted it. This was a question asked to Chris Finch. How many minutes can Greg Monroe give you tonight? Chris Finch's response was, I don't know. I'll have to ask him. I just met him 30 minutes ago.
Fantastic. Which is that's the epitome of all these slates right now. These guys are they're coming in. It could be. And why would he have met Greg Monroe? When's the last time Greg Monroe played meaningful minutes in the NBA? 2017. It's been a minute.
It's before COVID.
No, it's well before COVID. Years before COVID.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a minute. By the way, I'm real forever with the super chat. Beasley, top offensive option for the Wolves, right? Yeah.
Yes, but my favorite DFS option is Nathan Knight.
Yeah, but Malik Beasley's going to be allowed to do whatever he wants tonight.
Yeah, which he's going to be thrilled about.
Take me to wherever you want to go, man. Drive the car for a second.
Sure. So we got a question in our premium Discord channel from JEW, who's asking, what are your guys' thoughts on Trae Young now? And here's what let me check what our latest ownership run is. I think a lot of, particularly on FanDuel where he's cheaper, he's 10.5 on DK, and that's just a pretty appropriate price. At a sub 10K price on FanDuel, though, I don't know how many people are going to play him coming off of COVID. If we have this situation where there's just all of these guys, we have all this value in the front court that we've talked about. And I said, I want to play a lot of Nathan Knight. I want to play a lot of JaVale McGee. If people are not going to roster Trae Young, either because they weren't aware of this news or just came out late, I think he's a pretty interesting GPP option.
He's coming up in about 7% of my crunches right now. So I'll probably have something in that neighborhood. Although with all the value that's coming out, he could get artificially sorted higher when I start actually running crunches, which I guess is going to be right now.
Well, that's pretty early. That's risky business. Really, 30 minutes before the slate starts, that's not going to matter. I
got to run something right now, you know? It's not that I want to do this, but I need something in the hopper for the next 34 minutes that we have here.
So
Today feels like a day where we should just be taking questions from start to finish, but we're probably not going to do that.
I mean, going back to talking about the guards. Somebody who's popping up a lot for me as a value play at guard now is Josh Christopher. And of all the guys who are out for Houston, and we talked about this before, we're talking about, is John Wall going to play? No. And then we talked about Daishen Nix. Is he going to be? And I'm pretty sure I say his first name differently every time I say it. But so Nix is in the rotation now. But given the price point on Josh Christopher, sub 4K, and he's somebody we've seen some upside from at times this year, he's one of my favorite guard value plays now. My overall favorite plays on the slate are coming from my favorite value plays on the slate are coming in the front court. But if Josh Christopher is going to play extended minutes, he's averaging nearly a fantasy point per minute this year. Every Rockets game is garbage time in it at some point. So Christopher's a guard option that I really like from a value standpoint.
I've got a ton of him right now. We've got him. Last run that I saw was 16% owned on FanDuel. I have something in the neighborhood of 28. So I'm with you on Christopher. I like you chatting that one out. I'm trying to take a look. Daniel Tice is becoming a problem for me as a value option at no ownership whatsoever. I'm not really fond of that, but I think it's likely that he starts.
Do you have
a Daniel Tice take?
Daniel Tice is so weird because typically when Christian Wood is healthy, they just play Şengün ahead of Daniel Tice. But when Christian Wood is out, they play Daniel Tice minutes over Şengün. But now we have a situation where everybody's healthy. If he starts, I would feel differently about him, but I think he's going to come off the bench and just play limited minutes.
You did see the Martin and Jae'Sean Tate news, correct?
Yep.
Okay, just checking.
But either it's just how they've run the rotation when they have Christian Wood healthy. When Christian,
by the way,
Wood's,
we have Daniel Tice projected for 27 minutes.
Yeah, well, I disagree, but it's also super variable and subject to change. Like I think they're probably going to start Nwaba in the front court alongside Christian Wood.
That was my first thought.
Yeah.
I don't really have a lot of confidence here. Honestly, the only person that Eric Gordon and Christian Wood are going to start. And you could tell me any other three names, and that works for me. 0, 1, or 2 of Josh Christopher and Armani Brooks. I assume the most likely is 1 here. 2 is very realistic. They can go so many different directions because all these people are made up.
That's my take. Well, the other thing too is the point guards that are available for this team when they don't have, and by the way, Kevin Porter Jr. is not a point guard either. And then they have had DJ Augustine play some point guard minutes. None of the guards they have available are point guards. I don't know anything about Knicks or Travel and Queen, but I assume that these guys are not the best point guards in the world, or else we would have heard of them. But or else Armani Brooks or Josh Christopher are going to have to play, or Eric Gordon are going to have to play point guard minutes.
Yeah, I have Christopher and Brooks both in for 33 minutes. I'm getting to both of them. I'm getting to more Christopher than I am Brooks at this moment. $400 cheaper on FanDuel. Slightly better per minute fantasy guy. We'll see where this all shakes out. Do you like this COVID time?
This has been one of the best stretches of betting that I've ever had because there are just these guys, and I wasn't able to capitalize on Trae Young news because you have like 90 seconds to react to, and I was taking a piss by the time it came out. So I go back to my phone. It's like, oh crap, I missed out on news. But you get
That's
these.
What you get for taking a piss, man.
I know it's a big mistake in these times. Exactly, or just wear a diaper and whatever. Peeing your pants is cool, especially when you can make money doing it. But there's an incredible opportunity to just sit at my computer with the sportsbooks apps open, which is what I do. When we finish here, I have my monitor over here. I'll turn the basketball games on and I'll just sit here and wait for news to come out. And then you get stuff like the other day, Clint Capella is ruled in when he's expected to be out. There's like massively high props for Gorgie Jeng available. And you just take the unders on all of them. So there's incredible opportunities to make money if you're willing to sit here with a catheter and stare at your computer all day.
3,300 people in here right now, almost 700 likes. Hit that thumbs up. It's the holiday season, everybody. I think we can get to 1,000 pretty easily if we work hard over these next 29 minutes. Soul Dope with the super chat. Appreciate it. Thoughts on Brunson, Time Lord, and Bledsoe? I like Brunson quite a bit. Time Lord is a guy that I generally can't get away from. Right now, I am dead neutral to the field. I hope that just stays because I'm usually like 10x the field on him. And then Bledsoe, I am slightly under the field on, but certainly stands out in his tier.
Do you think that Al Horford and Robert Williams both start and play big minutes today? And Marcus Smart's questionable too, which throws a whole wrench into the Celtics as well.
Rockets starters: Eric Gordon, Armani Brooks, Josh Christopher, David Nwaba, Christian Wood.
Bang! All right, I nailed that one.
You did.
So I don't have to change. I don't have to change anything. I don't like Daniel Tice.
I don't like Daniel Tice anymore either. That was the starting lineup I had until I started looking around the industry and then knocked David Nwaba back down. Okay.
Yeah, by the way, I Şengün is going to check in ahead of Daniel Tice.
I wouldn't guarantee that just because like Daniel Tice could check in for David Nwaba.
So could Şengün.
Sure.
Şengün rules. They just never play him.
I could go either way on that one. I think that Şengün and Daniel Tice are set to play like similar minutes.
I'm not going to roster either of them today, but I think Şengün plays more minutes.
Well, I just bumped Daniel Tice or David Nwaba to 28 minutes, which became a gigantic problem. So, who plays more minutes for you then, Daniel Tice or Usman Garuba?
Well, these are the tough questions.
Because I think those guys have to play like 40 minutes combined.
I think Tice is probably ahead of Garuba in the rotation.
Okay. This is truly, truly heinous. I don't understand. I don't like it. I don't want to play anymore.
So,
by the way, a great idea. Me running that crunch.
Yeah, I knew that. I mean, we got a starting lineup for the Hornets as well. Ball, Rozier, Hayward, McDaniels, Plumlee. I mean, there is a point where I do the same thing. I run these crunches. And it's like, all right, these give me talking points for now. I have based on the information we know, these are the players I'm going to be getting to. But I always know I don't, especially on some of these recent shows, we don't have all the information, and I'm just going to be, making changes to it as we go. But yeah, this was one I knew going in that whatever these starting lineups are going to be, it's going to change what my lineups look like.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I did not expect that crunch was going to be the gold standard for what I had moving forward. All right, we've got a couple more super chats that came in. Poppy Rax, Wood or Capella? That's Wood for me.
That is Wood for me as well.
And I don't think that I care which grill, air, or flame out. KD, please don't burn down the house with the Traeger.
We got another super chat here from Brad Kaufman. Trae Young or James Harden? That is James Harden all day.
Yeah, they're not. It's not close. Not close at all. I wonder what that grill, air, or flame out means.
Marcus Smart is out. Stop your crunch. You're gonna have to redo it again.
All righty. I was gonna try to figure out if my house was on fire, but
no. That's secondary. Josh, please. There's min cash to be had today. If your house burns down, so be it. You might min cash the quarter arcade.
I'm taking a look and see what that means, but I feel like I need to tell her to go check the grill. But
do you want to go tell her to? Do you want to go tell her to check the grill? And also,
no, I don't. No, I don't. I would rather let it burn and figure out the Marcus Smart stuff. Otherwise,
you have a good insurance situation, right?
Well, the grill's outside, so it was just gonna burn on the concrete. I just hope it doesn't make it to the car. All right, McDaniels or Christopher for 3,700 on DK. A lot of McDaniels questions today. That's Christopher for me.
Christopher, especially now that he's starting.
All right, let's walk through this Boston rotation. We just lost Marcus Smart, and he was probably going to play like 35 minutes. Peyton Pritchard just became a real problem for today.
Also, no minutes restriction for Grant Williams, no minutes restriction for Al Horford.
Great. All right, so Peyton Pritchard, I don't know, 33, 34 minutes, something in that neighborhood.
I'm still triggered by this whole situation. So I actually played a good amount of Romeo Langford on the Christmas slate, and he was in my best lineup. He starts the game really well, immediately gets into foul trouble, though. It was something like he scored like 10 fantasy points the first 3 minutes of the game and already had 2 personal fouls and was not able to avoid foul trouble. This isn't necessarily a knock against Peyton Pritchard, but I'm saying that I'm going to like Romeo Langford and nobody's going to play him.
I mean, he's so bad at fantasy.
Romeo Langford but he's going to play a lot of minutes and he's going to start.
I got him in for 32. I mean, I think who plays more minutes, Peyton Pritchard or Romeo Langford?
It depends if Langford immediately gets into foul trouble again or not.
Well, let's just assume that he doesn't for this exercise.
Then Langford plays more minutes.
Okay. I'm going to go like 32 and 34 here. What else do we have available for Boston? So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. So they got a ton of guys.
Yeah. Joe Johnson minutes coming.
Yeah, probably. Especially with Tatum out, you know, like you can get a little bit more creation out there. Starting lineup: Pritchard, Langford, Brown, Horford, Williams.
Let's see. So starting lineup for Boston. Yeah, I guess they go Horford, Williams in the front court and then just start Pritchard and Langford. I guess Pritchard and Langford, although we've had these situations in the past where it seems no-brainer that Boston would start Peyton Pritchard and they just bring him off the bench anyway.
Peyton Pritchard will start for Marcus Smart.
Okay, so whatever. I'm going to like Peyton Pritchard now.
Zip it. Zip it.
Listen, I hit on the Nwaba one.
You did. You were saying that one as it was coming out that it was not the case.
Yeah,
I don't know who to give this final 12 minutes to. Sam Hauser, I guess. He's back. Al-Farouq Aminu.
For the so Broderick Thomas, Jabari Parker, Juancho Hernan Gomez, Joe Johnson will play a rotation.
I gave Joe Johnson 14 minutes.
I'm going to end up playing a lot of Jaylen Brown now, I think.
I was already playing a lot of Jaylen Brown. Now I'm going to be playing a lot of Jaylen Brown and Peyton Pritchard. Brunson or Wood? That's a super chat from Thomas G.
Who he asked?
It's Brunson for me.
Brunson, or who was the other one?
Wood. I assume that's a
is,
DraftKings question.
Yeah, that's Brunson.
Let's do this. Let's get this out of the way now. Not that I want to get it out of the way, but shout out to Yahoo Fantasy Sports for being the presenting sponsor of this video. So we've got a pretty good deal going on here. You can get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum and a $100 first match deposit bonus when you use the promo code XMIS100. If you need immediate access to things, you can email support@awesemo.com, but click the link in the description of this video or go to awesemo.com/Yahoo-promo. That could help you out as well. Yahoo's got the 100K Monday Night Football baller with 20K to first place. So you definitely want to get into that one. They have the best Sunday NFL contest in the industry every week. You don't want to miss that. Make sure you're getting some money on there. We've got Yahoo DFS tools and projections that could really help you win big. So go check out Yahoo. Free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum, deposit bonuses, great contest structures. You can't really ask for much more. Brad Kaufman, Jalen or Harden, single entry, high stakes. It's really hard to answer that question because they're two very different prices.
Yeah, it's Harden.
Yeah, like it's James Harden, but like that's not an indictment on Jaylen Brown at 8K on FanDuel either.
No,
I think they're the two best. I think they're the two best plays on the slate. I want to play them both.
Yeah, I have 3 pay up options that are in more than half my lineups: James Harden, Jaylen Brown, and LaMelo Ball. And then there's just so much value plays that JaVale McGee, Nathan Knight are the two that I use the most. And I have Josh Christopher mixed in there, guys like Larry Nance, Nasir Little. But for the most part, it's pay up for guys and then just kind of rotate some of these value options around them.
Wow, I am now getting a ton of Jaylen Brown. Why is that happening?
Because there's nobody else to take shots on this team.
Yeah, but I didn't change anything from that moment. Like, I already locked his rate.
Oh, so here's what happened, because the same thing happened to me as well whenever we ran lineups. If you're getting to guys like Peyton Pritchard and Romeo Langford, we've just unlocked extra value plays, and then there's just more space to spend, and it just goes to Jaylen Brown.
I thought it was actually going to go to Harden. That's why I was a little confused. Yeah, so I got Jaylen Brown at 1.36 FanDuel points per minute today. That's going to do it. I'm going to have Jaylen Brown in basically everything today.
Jaylen Brown, James Harden. No.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, we've talked about this on some of these slates before. You don't need to get a ceiling game out of these guys. If you get a situation where a bunch of these value players go out and score 30 fantasy points, which is probably going to happen, then the raw points at the top end matter more. So you might look at Jaylen Brown and be like, oh, this is more expensive than Jaylen Brown usually is. Yeah, maybe, but he goes and scores 45 fantasy points. He still could land in an optimal lineup as long as a lot of these cheap guys go off.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've got Harden, Jaylen Brown. Did I lock Robert Williams' stuff in here too? Because he's popping up a little bit more than I would like. Peyton Pritchard is really fixing to be what I thought was going to be a problem. And I think there's just too much value on the slate. What's Peyton Pritchard's price on FanDuel? He's 4,900 on FanDuel. No wonder I'm not getting as much as I thought I was going to get.
So, and he's 43 on DK. I haven't projected for nearly 30 fantasy points. He's making it in my lineups, but it's not like a crazy amount of Peyton Pritchard because now you said like as I'm rerunning this, does that make him somebody who's making it into a chunk of my lineups? Yes, but still guys in the front court, I'm getting some more of JaVale McGee. I'm getting some more of Nathan Knight.
Yeah, I thought it would be more extreme, but once I looked at it, I understand why it's not happening. I don't know I don't know why he's 4,900.
Hey, I like how the sites pick and choose which players are going to price up for injuries or COVID situations. Like Celtics, we care about. Hawks, it's like they knew that Trae Young was going to be in. They didn't need to price up the other guys. But yeah, a lot of these situations, it's like pick and choose where players get priced up. Like we've known the Wolves were going to be shorthanded for a minute, and they didn't do shit about Nathan Knight.
It's true. Corey Ballmer, Derek White and Mike Conley, or Pritchard and Porzingis on DraftKings.
Pritchard and Porzingis.
Yeah, I think I lean Pritchard and Porzingis as well. I don't think Mike Conley has become anything like super duper interesting with Donovan Mitchell out. Ooh, all righty. Well, there goes roast chicken. Got the text from the wife. Can't figure this out. So, oh, Christmas presents.
I do like the idea of we're going to be like 5 minutes until the show's about to end. There's just black smoke that starts creeping into the screen behind you.
It would be a competition blend smoke.
There are certainly people who are in YouTube chat that would be thrilled by that.
Yeah, there are. Unfortunately, they're not very nice. How are your crunches looking? You seeing anything weird right now? Have we gotten an ownership run as of late?
Let's see. Let me refresh that page because that is something.
13 minutes ago. So no.
If you don't have an ownership run from like 30 seconds ago, everything becomes irrelevant on this slate. But there is still some stuff that I think we could pull from this that's interesting. Some of the players I really like. I'm surprised that maybe, I guess just because there's so much value on this slate that the ownership's more spread out than I would have expected otherwise. But Nathan Knight projected for sub 30% ownership on DK right now. James Harden only projected for 36% ownership. That's crazy to me. 36% James Harden and 20% Jaylen Brown with the amount of value we have.
Yeah, the Harden one is really crazy to me. He's so easy to get to, and he's projected for probably something like 10 fantasy points more than anybody else on the slate. He's a no-brainer pay-up option today, at least for me.
So I have right now Harden projected for the most fantasy points on the slate, Jaylen Brown 2, and then LaMelo 3 for me. But the gap between Harden and everybody else, it's over 10 fantasy points.
Yeah, I got it at 9.5 for Harden to Jaylen Brown on FanDuel, and then I have LaMelo third. Jason Kelly with the super chat, Yahoo GBP, Trae Young or LaMelo? I assume it's LaMelo unless Trae Young's price is like $10.
Yeah, no, it's LaMelo.
All right. The news god wants to know how much McGee I'm getting to. That answer would be 17% as of my last run.
We'll lot see. More for me on DK on FanDuel. So here's what's different about JaVale McGee on DK versus FanDuel. He only has center eligibility on FanDuel, and there's only one center spot.
Yeah.
Over on DK, he's way easier to get to where you could play him in the center or in the utility spot. Because I prefer Nathan Knight to JaVale McGee, but you could play both of them pretty well. I guess you could on FanDuel as well, but Nathan Knight has power forward eligibility, and then you've got JaVale McGee just at center. So there's centers on FanDuel that I want to get to beyond JaVale McGee, and that makes it hard to get to just a massive amount of him.
We had more super chats come in. Wayne Ingersoll said, "Time Lord is a giant Marcus Smart." I'm not entirely sure what that means, but okay. Brad Kaufman following back up. Pritchard or Simons in a DK single entry? I mean, it's Pritchard until we know anything, I think.
The question was Pritchard. Yeah. This is actually kind of interesting now from a strategy standpoint. How are you going to be handling the Portland Trailblazers with Damian Lillard being questionable? Because there's so much value in these early games. I'm kind of getting a little concerned that I'm not giving myself enough flexibility to swap off to get to some of like Anthony. Like I would love Anthony Simons if Damian Lillard's out, but there's an opportunity cost associated with waiting for him. I haven't really thought through what I'm going to do with that in the next 13 minutes.
I've been projecting Damon. I assume we got ownership 32 seconds ago. I'm just going to hope that we get that news at some point in time and that can become like mildly actionable for me. But I'm just going to have a bunch of Dame. And if the worst case scenario is for me that I just have to turn Dame into a lot of Jalen Brunson, I'm not going to be super mad about it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I don't really know what else I can do. It's a weird one because it's not like it's just personal. Like we don't have any lean to that. I haven't even seen like what's going on. All right. I just finally ran my crunch. Ton of Brown, ton of Harden.
David Nwaba has become really popular. I'm a little surprised by that.
You know who I'm getting a lot of? I don't think we've said his name. Rudy Gobert.
I love him on FanDuel.
Yeah. I just have infinite money to get to him now.
He's $9,100 on FanDuel. We've got all the space in the world. He's a better FanDuel play than DK play just because of the way he scores fantasy points with the defensive stats being worth extra fantasy points. But yeah, 9,100 on FanDuel for Rudy Gobert is definitely somebody I want to get to. 9,100 on DK, I do find it a little more difficult to get to him, especially because he's picking up a little bit of ownership on DK.
He is now my third highest exposed player. Getting to a lot of Josh Christopher, too.
Damian Lillard's projected for 18% ownership. I don't think that's going to be the case on DK. What is he projected?
28 on FanDuel. I'm actually under the field now, which is not something that's been happening as of late. Now if that's the case, I just want Dame to get ruled out.
But I don't think people are actually going to go into lock playing a bunch of him with him being questionable. I could be wrong. I love the 9,000 price point on FanDuel. But I don't know. I think that ownership's going to be lower.
Darren Unger with the super chat. FanDuel, Ball, Wood, Christopher, or Brunson, Pritchard, Kristaps, Porzingis. I don't know. Flip a coin. Play them both.
Wood, Christopher.
It's Ball, Wood, Christopher for me, but they're both good.
It is, yeah. Well, also don't forget Peyton Pritchard being 4,900 on FanDuel. So the Ball, Wood, Christopher side.
Alrighty. Anything else standing out? Oh, Jordan Lockhart. Didn't see this one. Nathan Knight or Nwaba on DK?
Nathan Knight for me.
I probably have Nwaba projected better now. Nathan Knight, I've got at 29.8. Nwaba, I have at 26.4. So Nathan Knight. I'm going to go ahead. Ooh, we got another one from Soul Dope. LaMelo and Christopher or Brunson and Conley? That's LaMelo and Christopher.
LaMelo and Christopher.
Yeah, not particularly close for me there either. I guess I'm going to put some dummy lineups in so that I'm not a dummy. It seems like the right thing to do at 650 when you don't have any lineups in yet.
Yeah, it's never a bad course of action.
3,300 people in here, 830 likes. Guys, can we get to 1,000? This would be a late Christmas present for Greg and I. We would be very appreciative if you guys can get us up over that 1,000 like mark for this show. I think we've earned it. It's been a hectic show. We're pretty used to it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any slate where we deserve it, it's one where we go in having no clue what to expect, and then even afterwards, we still know we're just sitting here reacting to news as it comes. Marcus Smart being out, random starting lineups all over the place. Trae Young being ruled out, then playing.
So much fun, and it's amazing to me that Trae Young is the only one that cleared protocols.
there's going to be a lot of that happening now too, that the NBA is, I think the NBA is just, they're figuring this out as they go, which, I mean, what else could they really do? But yeah, they're going to be constantly changing rules, and it's going to create a whole lot of weird situations. But like I was saying before, a lot of good betting opportunities.
Yeah, you should make sure you're following our betting channels in here, or just in our Discord if you're a premium sub. I think that would be very beneficial to your pocket moving down the line. Oh, DFS Reds with the super chat. So if Lillard is ruled out and I have Pritchard in my guard spot, is it an auto switch to Simons? Thanks, guys.
Let me see. So what are the, first of all, start times of that game?
I mean, yeah, it probably is. But
I'm going to, I could say with a very, actually, I'm going to have Simons projected quite a bit higher than Pritchard should Dame get ruled out. But now here's the issue. You're not going to know that news. The Boston-Minnesota game has an 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time lock time. So that game starts in an hour and 8 minutes. The Portland game doesn't start for over 2 hours or for over 3 hours. You're not going to know that.
No, you're not. It's going to be a tough one to pull off. Wow, I'm getting less and less Harden now. That is so bonkers to me.
That's a mistake.
I mean, I still have 57%. I don't mean like that's more than the 41 we're projecting. I don't want it to sound like I'm like off of Harden, but I expected his number to shoot up higher, and I'm just getting to more of the 8s and 9s. The amount of Rudy Gobert that I'm getting right now is really, really surprising to me.
I have him 23% on FanDuel.
I have 41. Not maintaining that. I'm bringing that down to like, maybe something in the 30 range. But that stood out to me. I didn't think he would be the guy that would just immediately ramp up. But apparently that's the case. You getting any Joe Ingles? He's a guy that's popping up for me that I don't really want, but
let's see. Joe Ingles. Yes.
Okay.
A little more so. I think he's a better play on FanDuel than he is on DK. So Joe Ingles at 4,200. He's kind of sucked this year, but $4,200 for Joe Ingles on FanDuel. Although with that said, he's 37 on DK. There's just better guys that I like from a value perspective, but I have him less than 10% on DK and then in the teens on FanDuel.
I was hoping to get to a little bit more Ja Morant than I have right now, but I just don't have him. We've got Trae Young up to 17% ownership on FanDuel. That's healthy.
I was hoping he was going to be a contrarian option, but looks like it's not going to be the case.
No, it's the exact opposite at this point.
Nope.
All right. Who are your most exposed plays for right now? We got about 6 minutes to go before we lock this bad boy up and get out of here.
All right, so you want to roll through, by the way, something really bizarre. LaMelo Ball has shooting guard eligibility on DK. James Harden does not, but my most exposed guards right now, Harden, LaMelo, Josh Christopher, forwards, Jaylen Brown, David Nwaba, Nasir Little, Larry Nance, centers, JaVale McGee, Nathan Knight. Let's see. In terms of contrarian options, I think Al Horford's getting slept on a little bit. We now have all of these guys that are out for the Boston Celtics and they're shorthanded. There aren't a lot of creators on the Boston Celtics right now. We've got Jaylen Brown, I guess Peyton Pritchard to an extent. Al Horford's a pretty capable playmaker, and he could do a little bit of everything. He's somebody that I think is worth being overweight to the field on, that the field is just not really there. I get he hasn't had big games recently, but this situation is totally different.
Right now, I don't think you'll think this is crazy, but we've got Al Horford projected for 16% ownership on FanDuel. I only have 5. We have Jaren Jackson, $300 cheaper, projected for 8% ownership. So I've kind of just flip-flopped Al Horford and Jaren Jackson from a ownership perspective. And same story basically for Kristaps Porzingis and Christian Wood.
I think a lot of people also, I think Al Horford's ownership is going to be lower than that. A lot of people are going to look at box scores and just be like, look how bad Al Horford's been recently. Listen to this schedule that the Boston Celtics have played recently. Philadelphia 76ers, at Utah, at the Lakers, at the Clippers, at the Suns, home against Milwaukee. That is not a schedule that's very conducive for scoring a lot of fantasy points. No. Say they're drawing the Minnesota Timberwolves with all of their players out. I'm going to be on Al Horford here.
I just bumped him up a percentage point or a fantasy point, got 3 or 4 more percent. Because I do think I'm a little lighter than I should be on him right now. And I'm I'm already light on Robert Williams, so stands to reason I should probably get to one of them.
I don't play a lot of Robert.
Today's the day that Robert Williams is going to get like 9 stocks because I usually have a ton, and today is the day that I'm fading him. So he's going to smash his chalk, and I'm going to lose my mind.
I typically don't play him when Al Horford's available. Not a lot, anyway.
It's the power forward eligibility on FanDuel that gets me more than anything else, which is, first of all, ridiculous that he has it. Let's be clear here. That is a not correct positional designation for Time Lord. 961 likes, by the way, guys. We need 39 more for 1,000. I think that's a pretty reasonable ask here. I know that I've asked a couple of times recently, but this is the one that matters. Send us over the top. Get us in. Anthony Davis with the super chat said, quick question. I was starting to get less Harden. I'm jamming him in. He scores 55. Is that a fail? I'm jamming, but I'm getting a lot of 8 and 9K as well. Raw points matter for the most, right? Yeah, I don't think that it's a fail if James Harden scores 55. You're not happy about it, but I mean, we're talking about that being like a 45th percentile outcome.
Yeah, and it unless something crazy happens, that's probably somewhere around his floor is, like low to mid 50s fantasy points. There's just nobody else to take shots for the Nets. And then also consider this matchup for them against the Clippers. The Clippers are playing all backups now at this point. The Clippers starting lineup is going to be, let's see, who do the Clippers have available to them today? The Clippers starting lineup is going to be like Bledsoe, Kennard, Terrence Mann, Zubats, and then maybe Marcus Morris if he plays. It's a pretty crappy defensive unit compared to a team that earlier in the season had a really good defense when they had Paul George. So I think this is a really good matchup for James Harden, and obviously Kevin Durant's out. The floor is really high, but then also there's so much value on the slate that it's not a fail because you could have all of the value options go off and have big fantasy games. We were talking about this before with Jaylen Brown. And then you just need the fantasy points from James Harden, even if it is only 55.
Christopher or Ingles? That was a question from Josh Allen. No site. It's Christopher for me.
Yeah, Christopher.
And then Good Audit versus Bad Audit says, how do you guys know the ownership projections? We just get behind the scenes information from FanDuel and DraftKings.
Yeah, they email us.
Yeah. You're lucky that we share it.
Yeah.
But if you do want it, you can go to awesemo.com and sign up for a package.
Yeah, there's so we have the same way you project fantasy points for players, you project ownership. It's based on an algorithm. So it's not anything, it's just like with players projections. Is it going to be accurate to the number? No, but it's roundabout, it's a mathematical process, and it's an estimation based on models.
Yes, it is. Well, 6:59 and 30 seconds. Do you have your lineups in?
Oh yeah, I've had my lineups in for 3 minutes now.
There you go. All right. Who's the guy that you're most nervous that you don't have?
Most nervous that I don't have. Let's see. What are the most recent? Who's like the super chalk player that I'm not on a ton of right now? I didn't get to a ton of Malik Beasley. I'm underweight to the field on him. Beasley is projected for about 25% ownership on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he's projected for right around 30% ownership. The upside's apparent. Everybody's out for the Minnesota Timberwolves, but my lineups are just shaping up to be so heavy, stars and scrubs, that Beasley kind of got left out of the mix in the mid-range.
I don't have him either. 8%. So let's pack it in. I want to go find out if I'm eating dinner tonight. Good luck tonight, everybody. Make sure you're paying attention to all of the news. Follow at Awesemo NBA just so that you don't miss anything, because every one of these games starts like every half hour. So we're going to be getting a slow trickle. It's not going to be fun. Good luck. Win some money. We're back again tomorrow doing it all again. Peace.